I apologized for the appearance of my daughter-in-law, which my mother-in-law found displeasing. During my father-in-law's 60th birthday celebration, she reprimanded me in front of our relatives, lamenting not just her lack of attractiveness, but also her perceived incompetence. It was truly humiliating. I found myself wondering where my usually supportive husband was during this ordeal. Was he occupied with our daughter? His absence was conspicuous. Upon my arrival at my in-laws' home, feeling ready to enjoy the festivities, my mother-in-law suddenly complained of chronic back pain, rendering her unable to participate. Consequently, she entrusted all party preparations to me. As the event progressed, she continued to denigrate me in front of our gathered relatives, casting a shadow over what should have been a joyous occasion. It felt as though the lively atmosphere had turned somber, resembling more of a funeral than a celebration. Then, breaking the uncomfortable silence, my father-in-law stood up. "Is that all you have to say?" Little did anyone know, this seemingly innocuous question would set off a chain of events beyond imagination. "My name is Sarah, and I'm 35 years old. 6 years ago, I tied the knot with Michael, my husband, who happened to be 3 years my junior. Together, we have a delightful 5-year-old daughter. However, despite the joy of our family, there was always a shadow lurking in the form of my mother-in-law's disapproval. She harbored resentment towards me for being older than her son. Every holiday visit, be it New Year's, Memorial Day, or any national celebration, was tainted by her cutting remarks aimed at me, often in the absence of my husband. I wish I had a younger, livelier, and more attractive daughter-in-law, not someone adorned with age spots like you," she would say with a sharp tongue. "Do I really look that old?" "Yes, very much so. Haven't you noticed your own reflection in the mirror every day?" Receiving criticism about one's appearance can be deeply hurtful, especially for women. Despite this, I tried to brush it off, considering our limited interactions occurring only a few times a year. However, instead of diffusing the situation, my nonchalant response seemed to further provoke her. "You're remarkably thick-skinned for a woman of your age. It's irritating how you remain unaffected by my words. You lack even a trace of humility," she continued, her words growing harsher with each exchange. Yeah," was all I could muster in response. How should I confront my mother-in-law, whose words always leave me speechless? In front of my husband, she wears a facade of kindness, concealing her true nature. It's as if he's oblivious to her mistreatment of me. Yet, if I were to express my frustrations, I fear I'd bear the blame. So, I've endured in silence. Visiting their home with her presence feels like carrying a heavy burden. Despite this, it was a significant occasion, my gentle father-in-law's 60th birthday celebration. With numerous relatives gathering for the grand event, I chose to attend. Though my father-in-law is reserved, his subtle acts of kindness envelop me when my mother-in-law's hurtful words weigh me down. He gently approaches, offering solace with his words. "Sarah, if you're struggling, please don't hesitate to confide in me. I'd like to offer my support if that's all right with you." I couldn't help but wonder if my father-in-law was aware of the harassment I endured from my mother-in-law. Perhaps he chose to refrain from openly supporting me to shield me from further mistreatment behind the scenes. To honor our compassionate father-in-law, our family embarked on a 3-hour journey early in the morning to reach our in-laws' home. Feeling a bit under the weather with a low-grade fever and lingering fatigue, I entrusted the driving to my husband, Michael. Upon arrival, my mother-in-law emerged from the front door with an air of cheerfulness. Well, look who's here. It's been a while, Michael. You should visit more often. Oh dear, you look exhausted." "I've been driving non-stop, so it's understandable," Michael replied wearily. "You've clearly put in a lot of effort. I'll prepare the bed right away. Why don't you go rest in the back room?" "That sounds like a plan, Sarah. You should rest too. You've been tending to our child in the car. You must be exhausted. Plus, you don't seem well." "Oh, Michael, you didn't know. I spoke with Sarah yesterday, and we arranged to go shopping for the 60th birthday celebration." "Sarah, you go rest. Once you've placed the luggage at the entrance, we'll head out." Of course, I couldn't recall any such arrangement, nor did I recall discussing any shopping plans. After looking after our energetic 5-year-old daughter, I felt drained. Since I wasn't feeling well, I welcomed the chance to rest. "Since Sarah isn't feeling well, let her rest. You can handle the shopping, but this is your father's special occasion. I want to pick out the finest ingredients with Sarah." "Sarah, you'll stick to our plan, won't you?" She had a knack for presenting excuses that left me no room for refusal. After dropping off the luggage, she grabbed my arm forcefully and directed me back into the car we had just exited. With an intense glare, she snapped, "You don't need rest right now." But almost instantly, her demeanor softened into a broad smile as she exclaimed, "Thank you for driving us. I really appreciate it." Knowing my mother-in-law's temperament, opposing her at that moment would likely ruin the entire day. With reluctance, I found myself settling into the driver's seat. "I'm feeling all right, Michael. You take a break. I'll accompany mother-in-law for shopping." Attempting to hand her daughter over to Michael, my mother-in-law swiftly intervened, taking the child from my arms and settling her into the child's seat before shutting the door firmly. Taking care of the child is a mother's responsibility. "Well then, Michael, we're off." As she settled into the passenger seat, her previously sweet demeanor vanished, replaced by a harsh tone as she began to chastise me. "So, you can't even manage to care for your own child? Quit relying on Michael for everything. You're nothing but an incompetent daughter-in-law, aging before your time." What was truly unsettling was her ability to maintain a sugary facade while my husband, Michael, remained within earshot, completely oblivious. "Wave goodbye to this microwave," she quipped as we embarked on the drive in my husband's unfamiliar car towards the bustling supermarket. Predictably, my mother-in-law wasted no time before launching into a lecture. "You'll regret lounging around while my son drives, mother-in-law," I retorted weakly. "Please refrain from such ominous remarks. I've been battling fever and fatigue since this morning. Your poor health stems from your lack of discipline, and your crow's feet, more pronounced. Those cheek spots, darker. It's painful to witness. Your skin has lost its former vitality," she criticized relentlessly. Drained of all energy to counter her harsh words, I merely nodded as we reached the supermarket. This is utterly exhausting. How do daughters-in-law worldwide endure such treatment from their mothers-in-law? My spirited mother-in-law sprang out of the car without a word of gratitude, immediately thrusting 2 shopping carts into my hands. "Move faster, you're so slow." Attempting to steer clear of the bustling crowds, I lagged behind, but she surged ahead, filling the carts with extravagant items like USDA prime beef, crab, salmon roe, and melons. She then proceeded to toss in unnecessary items. "Mother-in-law, do we really need all of this right now? I've already decided, we're stocking up so we won't have to make frequent trips. You should have known that without my having to tell you." Feeling utterly helpless, I allowed her to dictate the shopping list. By the time we finished, the carts were overflowing. "Let's head to checkout. Move quickly now, no dawdling." Despite her haste, when it was time to settle the bill at the checkout counter, my mother-in-law made no move to retrieve her wallet. "Mother-in-law, the payment," I ventured. She kept her hands folded behind her back, unmoving. When I pressed her again for the money, she shot me an angry glare. "You should foot the bill for everything." "Excuse me," I stammered. "As a wife, it's your responsibility to cater to your husband's family. Don't be miserly, just pay up." Reluctantly, I ended up covering the entire bill at the register, totaling $300. With no cash on hand, I had to charge it to my credit card. As a part-time worker trying to support my child, this financial blow hit hard. What made matters worse was that I had brought $300 as a birthday gift for my father-in-law's 60th birthday, but now I couldn't use it. This expense meant tightening our belts even further in the future, adding to the already heavy burden. I wonder how I'll break this news to Michael. If I were to speak up about this treatment, my mother-in-law might cause a scene. During the car ride home, she continued her onslaught of insults, showcasing an impressive array of verbal attacks. On our arrival home, my husband remained fast asleep, likely exhausted. Sensing an opportunity, my mother-in-law's smile widened as she began to assert her authority over me. "After you've put away the groceries, go eat in the garden immediately. Could I please have a moment to rest? You have no right to defy your mother-in-law. This is the consequence of letting Michael drive alone. You brought this upon yourself," I muttered. "If you have time to argue, then you have time to work. Hurry up, we're running out of time. After you've eaten, clean the bathroom and the toilet." Despite the injustice of the situation, I had no option but to endure it. Throughout the day, I toiled in the garden, pulling out weeds before tackling the grime and yellow stains in the bathroom and toilet. As I worked, I consoled myself with the thought that once the 60th birthday celebration concluded, I could enjoy some respite from my mother-in-law's presence. Just as I finished cleaning, my husband stirred from his slumber, surprised to find me still at work. Sarah, are you all right? If you're not feeling well, don't push yourself too hard. Take a break, he urged. Thank you, I'll take you up on that, I replied wearily. Ouch, that hurts. But before I could finally rest, my mother-in-law suddenly let out a piercing cry, clutching her back in agony. Despite her earlier vitality, she now complained of sudden back pain, her demeanor shifting from lively to frail in an instant. This is troublesome. My back is in excruciating pain. I can't manage anything. My chronic back issues have flared up once more. I won't be able to prepare food before our relatives arrive. Sarah, you're my only hope. But oh, what am I to do? While her distressed demeanor seemed somewhat contrived, if her chronic back pain was genuine, then standing in the kitchen would indeed be impossible for her. With a heavy heart, I entrusted my husband with our daughter's care and reluctantly began cooking. Sarah, are you certain you're all right? I'm fine. Cooking is my usual responsibility, remember? I maintained a facade of strength for my husband, though my body was already weary. However, it was a significant day for my father-in-law, and I felt compelled to soldier on. My head is spinning, and the scent of food is making me queasy. But I must persevere for my father-in-law's sake. After completing the cooking, my father-in-law entered the kitchen to check on me. You've worked tirelessly. Thank you for preparing all this food. It's my pleasure. It's all for you. Please enjoy it later. As the relatives began to gather, each offering well wishes to my father-in-law, the atmosphere became animated. After the toasts were made and we were on the verge of starting the meal, my mother-in-law uttered something utterly shocking. I regret to inform everyone that due to my chronic back pain acting up on this important birthday celebration, all the food was prepared by my daughter-in-law. I apologize for the lackluster quality of the dishes, courtesy of my unattractive daughter-in-law. Both my father-in-law and husband were stunned into silence by my mother-in-law's sudden outburst. Not only is my daughter-in-law unattractive, but she's also clumsy and utterly inept. It's truly a shame, she continued, her tone dripping with disdain. As she exaggeratedly rubbed her back, my mother-in-law persisted in belittling me. She's quite clumsy, you see. Without my assistance, she's helpless. I even question her ability to care for her own child. I worry whether Michael can cope with such a wife. What should have been a joyous occasion swiftly descended into a somber atmosphere, reminiscent more of a funeral than a celebration. My typically supportive husband, who should have been caring for our daughter, was conspicuously absent. Then, in a moment that shattered the tension, my father-in-law, who had been silently observing, rose to his feet. Is that all you have to say? He demanded, his voice cutting through the tension. Seems like it. Perhaps it's time to bid farewell to the useless one, my mother-in-law added, her words dripping with contempt. In that instant, my husband strode into the room, carrying our daughter in a suitcase. His expression was unusually stern. Dad, as you suggested, I've packed her belongings, he declared firmly. My mother-in-law's smile hinted at satisfaction. Sarah, it appears you're being shown the door, she taunted. But to her astonishment, my husband handed the suitcase to her. What? My father-in-law's booming voice delivered the final blow. Take that and leave this house immediately. Despite her initial confusion, my mother-in-law swiftly grasped the gravity of the situation. Why am I the one being asked to leave? It's Sarah who's incompetent. The bathroom is always covered in mold, the toilet left filthy, and you dare to label Sarah as useless when you hardly lift a finger to cook. And let's not forget how terribly you've treated her. I've had my fill. It's a mother-in-law's responsibility to guide her daughter-in-law. I was merely pointing out her flaws. Guidance. Please. Do you think we're living in? My father-in-law began, but the raised eyebrows of an enraged father-in-law left no room for support. Realizing she wouldn't garner any sympathy from him, my mother-in-law resorted to her usual theatrics, turning to my husband and bursting into tears. Michael, don't get the wrong idea. Someday, we might have to take care of your father, right? So, I was trying to teach Sarah how to be a good wife, as difficult as that may have been. Taking care of him, that's a joke. I won't be fooled by you anymore. You've been mistreating Sarah all along, even today. Despite feeling unwell, she still came to celebrate Dad's 60th birthday. Sarah volunteered to join the celebration, didn't she? Don't deny it. And you made her foot the bill for the groceries, didn't you? I found a receipt from today in her bag when she was trying to get candies for our daughter. It clearly shows Sarah paid with her credit card. I just asked her to pay because I didn't have any cash on me. I was planning to reimburse her later, honestly. Really, if I hadn't noticed, you would have stayed silent about it. I've ignored the typical mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts, but you've crossed a line. I'm tired of living with such a spiteful old woman. Witnessing my husband and father-in-law turn away from her, my mother-in-law reverted to her usual theatrics, blaming me with all her usual dramatic flair, tears streaming down her face. No, I haven't vocalized it, but it's undeniable that you've been mistreating me, isn't it? For the sake of my father-in-law and my husband, who had shown me unwavering support, I summoned the courage to speak the truth for the first time. I refused to let my mother-in-law continue to dictate the narrative. That's correct. We were informed by Mia. We're aware of the derogatory remarks you made about Sarah at the supermarket and in the car afterward. You forced Sarah to handle all the weeding and cleaning in the house. Yeah, Grandma was mean to Mommy. She made her clean lots of things. You can't just dismiss a child's words. Maya doesn't lie. Let's review the dash cam footage. That should clarify everything. Excellent suggestion, Sarah. I'll do that right away. Ignoring his mother's protests, Michael strode out to the parked car, starting the engine and pulling up the dash cam footage. The latest model, equipped to record both the road and the car's interior, provided crystal clear visuals, including facial expressions. It's all there. She said those things. I murmured. I'm appalled, echoed everyone as they watched the footage unfold. This is utterly unacceptable. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law, who had remained inside the house, adamantly denying any wrongdoing, began to panic as tension thickened, rushing barefoot toward the car. Stop this immediately. Don't watch. But no amount of shouting could halt the revelation. With all her transgressions laid bare, my mother-in-law stood speechless, stunned into silence. That's when my father-in-law casually handed her a single piece of paper. I've filled out my portion. You just need to complete yours and submit it. What? Is this a divorce form? I had
fresh blood. William Barrett, CEO of Summit Industries, smiled across the mahogany boardroom table. That's what this company needs. New perspectives, young energy. I sat motionless in my chair, the quarterly report I just presented still displayed on the screen behind me. Our best quarter in company history. Revenue up 32%. Client satisfaction at record highs. All under my leadership as Director of Operations. And I was being replaced by a 26-year-old who'd never held a real job in his life. Alex has some innovative ideas, William continued, patting his son's shoulder. Harvard MBA, internships at top firms. He's exactly what Summit needs to move into the future. Alex Barrett slouched in his Italian suit, scrolling through his phone. He hadn't bothered to look up during my entire presentation. Of course, I said carefully, I'd be happy to help with the transition. William waved his hand dismissively. No need, Catherine. Alex starts Monday. We'll need you to clear out your office by end of day Friday. My name is Catherine Mitchell, and until that moment, I'd spent 12 years building Summit Industries into one of the leading technology consulting firms in Boston. I'd started as a junior analyst, worked my way up through pure merit, and transformed our operations from regional to national. Most importantly, I'd personally secured and maintained our relationship with Maxwell Technologies, the client that represented 40% of our annual revenue. But none of that mattered now, because William Barrett's son needed a job worthy of his Harvard MBA. The board's unanimous decision, William added, as if reading my thoughts, will provide 6 months severance, of course. Very generous. The other board members avoided my eyes. They'd watched me grow this company from $10 million to $100 million in annual revenue. Now they were throwing me aside for nepotism. I understand, I said, gathering my papers. I'll have everything ready for Alex by Friday. As I walked to my office, whispers followed. News would spread fast. Catherine Mitchell, the company's rising star, pushed out for the CEO's son. My phone buzzed. A message from David Turner, my deputy director. Just heard. This is insane. What are they thinking? I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I sat at my desk, looking out over the Boston skyline I'd watched change over 12 years. The corner office I'd earned through countless late nights and impossible deadlines. Another message popped up, this one from Linda Zhu at Maxwell Technologies. Quarterly review meeting next week. Need to discuss the new AI integration project. Maxwell Technologies, our biggest client. The company that had trusted me personally with their $50 million digital transformation initiative. The client that Alex Barrett, with his 0 years of actual experience, would now be responsible for managing. I smiled for the first time since the board meeting. Because what William Barrett and the board didn't know was that I'd seen this coming 3 months ago. The whispered conversations, the sudden inclusion of Alex in high-level meetings, the way William had started questioning my every decision. I'd prepared accordingly. Opening my drawer, I pulled out a sleek business card I'd received at last month's tech conference. Victoria Santos, CEO, Quantum Solutions. Quantum was our biggest competitor. They'd been trying to poach me for years, but I'd always declined out of loyalty to Summit. Victoria's latest offer had been different though, not just a director position, but full autonomy to build my own division. I kept her card, just in case. Now I pulled out my phone and dialed. Catherine. Victoria answered on the first ring. I was hoping you'd call. That position's still open. For you? Always. I heard what happened at Summit. Their loss is our gain. I looked at the family photos on my desk. Not personal memories. They were staged photos of the Barretts, which William had insisted every executive display. Time to pack those away first. When can we meet? How about dinner tonight? I have some ideas I think you'll find interesting. I agreed to meet at 7 p.m., then started methodically preparing for my departure. But this wouldn't be the typical executive exit, quietly disappearing with a severance package and non-compete agreement. No, Summit Industries was about to learn a very expensive lesson about valuing the wrong things. My phone buzzed again. Linda from Maxwell. Everything okay? Hearing strange rumors about leadership changes at Summit. Let's have coffee tomorrow, I replied. There are some things we should discuss. By evening, I'd filled 3 boxes with personal items but left all client files exactly as they were. Alex Barrett would need them, not that he'd understand half of what he was looking at. David appeared in my doorway as I was packing the last box. They're making a huge mistake, he said, closing the door behind him. The team's in shock. Nobody can believe they're replacing you with him. I gestured for him to sit. How's morale? Terrible. Sarah's already talking about leaving. Mike's updating his LinkedIn. Everyone knows if they push you out, none of us are safe. I nodded slowly. Keep me posted. And David? Don't do anything rash. Not yet. He understood my meaning, nodding slightly before leaving. At 7 p.m., I walked into Sorellina, one of Boston's finest Italian restaurants. Victoria Santos already had a corner table, a bottle of wine breathing beside her. Catherine, she stood to greet me, elegant in a perfectly tailored suit. Thank you for finally accepting my dinner invitation. We ordered, making small talk until the appetizers arrived. Then Victoria leaned forward, her expression turning serious. Here's what I'm thinking, she said. We create a new division at Quantum, specifically focused on enterprise digital transformation. You bring your expertise, your methodology, and, she smiled, any clients who might want to follow you. Interesting proposal, I said carefully. Though my contract has certain non-compete clauses. Victoria's smile widened. Already reviewed by our legal team. The clauses are limited to specific technologies, not general consulting services. And they can't prevent clients from choosing their preferred partners. I took a sip of wine, thinking about Maxwell Technologies' upcoming AI integration project. The one Alex Barrett wouldn't have the faintest idea how to handle. I'll need autonomy, I said. My team, my methods, of course, and a significant equity stake in the new division. When can I start? Victoria pulled out a folder containing a contract. How about Monday? I read through the documents carefully. The terms were excellent. Better salary, better benefits, and most importantly, real authority to build something new. One more thing, Victoria added as I signed. We're announcing the new division next week. Care to guess who our first major client might be? I smiled, thinking of my coffee meeting with Linda tomorrow. I might have some ideas. That night, as I drove home past Summit's offices, I thought about William Barrett's condescending smile. Fresh blood, he'd said, not realizing he was about to learn a very expensive lesson about the difference between nepotism and real leadership. My phone buzzed. A message from David. Alex just sent an email to the whole team. Full of corporate buzzwords and zero substance. Called himself our new visionary leader. People are already taking bets on how long before he crashes and burns. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and began drafting an email to Linda at Maxwell, outlining some concerns about Summit's new leadership and their ability to handle complex technical projects. By Friday, I'd clear out my office as requested. But by Monday, Summit Industries would begin discovering exactly what they'd lost and what their competitors had gained. They wanted fresh blood. They were about to get it, just not in the way they expected. The game was only beginning. Linda Zhao from Maxwell Technologies was already waiting when I arrived at Thinking Cup Coffee the next morning. She'd chosen a quiet corner table, 2 steaming lattes waiting. Okay, she said as I sat down. What's really going on at Summit? Because Alex Barrett just sent me the most incomprehensible email I've ever read about synergistic value propositions and paradigm-shifting methodologies. I took a sip of coffee, choosing my words carefully. Summit is making some leadership changes. They're replacing you. It wasn't a question. With the CEO's son, who has zero experience in enterprise technology integration. The board wants fresh perspectives. Linda's eyes narrowed. She hadn't become CTO of a Fortune 500 company by missing subtle signals. We have a $50 million AI integration project starting next month. One that you personally designed the implementation strategy for. I nodded, pulling out a folder. Which is why I wanted to meet. There are some concerns you should be aware of. For the next hour, we discussed the technical complexities of Maxwell's upcoming project. The custom frameworks I'd developed, the integration points that required deep understanding of their legacy systems, the potential risks if handled incorrectly. And Alex Barrett understands all this? Linda asked, though she clearly knew the answer. Alex Barrett needed 3 attempts to pass Harvard's basic data analytics course. She sat back, fingers drumming on the table. Catherine, let's be direct. Maxwell Technologies can't risk our digital transformation on an inexperienced CEO's son. Where are you going next? I smiled. Sometimes the best moves are the ones your opponents make for you. I'm starting Monday at Quantum Solutions, building a new enterprise transformation division. Quantum? She raised an eyebrow. Victoria Santos's company? The same. Complete autonomy, experienced team, and a focus on exactly the kind of complex integration projects Maxwell specializes in. Linda checked her watch. I have a board meeting at 11. Send me a proposal by end of day. Include timeline, team structure, and technical specifications. Already prepared, I handed her another folder. Just needs final numbers. She laughed. Always 3 steps ahead. This is why we trust you with our projects, Catherine. She stood to leave, then paused. Summit's going to regret this, aren't they? Tremendously. Back at Summit, I spent the morning organizing files and preparing transition documents. Not that Alex would understand them, but everything needed to be properly documented for what would come next. David stopped by around lunch, closing my office door. Half the teams already updated their resumes. Sarah got 3 calls from recruiters yesterday alone. Anyone talking to Quantum? He grinned. You tell me. Word is they're expanding their enterprise division. Need experienced consultants. I kept my expression neutral. Interesting timing. Very. By the way, Alex is holding his first team meeting at 2. Mandatory attendance. Want to bet how many buzzwords he fits into the first 5 minutes? I have more important things to do. I gestured at my packing boxes. Like documenting 12 years of client relationships that he's about to destroy. The afternoon brought a stream of visitors to my office. Longtime colleagues stopping by to express their disbelief, share rumors, or just say goodbye. Each one left with my personal email address and a knowing look. At 4:30, my phone buzzed, a message from Linda. Proposal reviewed. Board meeting went well. Need to discuss details. Dinner tonight? Before I could reply, another message popped up, this one from Victoria. Maxwell Technologies CTO just called. Well played, Catherine. Very well played. I smiled, remembering William Barrett's dismissive wave. No need for transition help, he'd said. He had no idea what was coming. At 5 p.m., Alex Barrett strutted into my office without knocking, still scrolling through his phone. So where are all the client files and stuff? He asked without looking up. Everything's documented in the shared drive, I replied. Though you might want to start with the basic methodology guides. Yeah, whatever. He cut me off. Dad says this job's pretty simple. Just gotta keep the clients happy, right? I'm thinking we'll start with some fresh ideas, shake things up a bit. I thought about Maxwell's complex AI integration project, the years of groundwork and relationship building, the technical intricacies that Alex couldn't begin to comprehend. Good luck with that. He finally looked up, frowning slightly at my tone. Hey, no hard feelings, right? Dad says sometimes we need to make room for new vision. You understand? Perfectly. I'm sure Maxwell Technologies will understand too. That got his attention. Maxwell? The big AI project client? Don't worry. I smiled. I'm sure your fresh ideas will impress them. Just remember they're investing $50 million in the integration. I'd hate for anything to go wrong. He shifted uncomfortably. Maybe you could write up some notes or something? Everything you need to know is in the documentation. Though you might want to learn what API integration framework means before your first client meeting. He left quickly after that, probably to Google API. At 7 p.m., I met Linda for dinner at Mistral. She was already reviewing the proposal I had sent, pages marked with sticky notes. Our board has some concerns about Summit's new leadership, she said as we ordered, particularly regarding the AI integration project. Understandable. They're also very interested in this new proposal, especially the technical architecture you've designed. She smiled. The one that's not covered by Summit's non-compete agreement. I took a sip of wine. Summit's agreement only covers specific implementations. This is an entirely new framework. Exactly what our legal team said. She pulled out a document. Which is why we'd like to discuss moving our business to Quantum Solutions, effective immediately. The document was a letter of intent. Maxwell Technologies would terminate their contract with Summit Industries due to material changes in project leadership and concerns about technical capabilities. Victoria's expecting your call, I said. Linda signed the letter with a flourish. Already scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. I assume you'll be there. Wouldn't miss it. Later that night, as I packed the last items from my Summit office, my phone lit up with messages. David, Alex just tried to explain machine learning to the dev team. It was painful. Pretty sure he thinks AI means awesome ideas. Sarah, Quantum Solutions posted 6 new positions. Enterprise integration experience required. Coincidence? Victoria, meeting with Maxwell confirmed for 9 a.m. Bring your technical specs. And Catherine? The board wants to discuss fast-tracking your division's launch. I looked around my empty office one last time. 12 years of memories, achievements, relationships. All sacrificed for William Barrett's nepotism. Monday morning would be interesting. Very interesting indeed. My phone buzzed one final time. Linda again. Just sent the termination notice to Summit's board. Cited leadership concerns and technical capability gaps. Copy to all board members. Want to bet how long before they realize what's really happening. I smiled, turning off the lights in my office for the last time. They wanted fresh blood. I typed back. They're about to get it. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about showing exactly what was lost. And what happens when you value the wrong things. Summit Industries was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Monday morning at Quantum Solutions felt like stepping into another world. My new office, larger than the one at Summit, overlooked Boston Harbor. The morning sun glinted off the water, a fresh start. Victoria had already arrived, carrying 2 cups of premium coffee. Ready to shake up the industry? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A message from David. Total chaos here. Board called emergency meeting after Maxwell's termination letter. William Barrett, looks like he's about to explode. Another message followed quickly. Alex tried calling Maxwell's tech team. They hung up when he couldn't explain basic integration protocols. His dad's office door is locked, and everyone can hear yelling. I smiled, setting my phone aside. More than ready. The 9 a.m. meeting with Maxwell Technologies took place in Quantum's largest conference room. Linda brought her entire technical team, plus their legal department. Victoria sat beside me, watching as I walked through our implementation strategy. Timeline remains the same, I explained, pulling out detailed project plans. But with Quantum's enhanced infrastructure and my new team's expertise, we can actually accelerate certain integration phases. Linda's team nodded approvingly. They'd worked with me for years, trusted my technical judgment. More importantly, they understood exactly why we were all sitting in Quantum's offices instead of Summit's. One concern, Linda said, though her smile suggested it wasn't really a concern at all. Summit's legal team is claiming some of this technical architecture belongs to them. Victoria slid forward a document prepared by Quantum's lawyers. We've reviewed every line of code, every framework component. Everything Catherine's proposing was either developed independently or falls outside Summit's intellectual property claims. Besides, I added, pulling up a specific section of code, this is a completely new integration framework. Designed last weekend, actually. Linda laughed, while Alex Barrett was probably Googling what API means. Exactly. By 10:30, the contracts were signed. Maxwell Technologies was officially transferring their $50 million project and all future work to Quantum Solutions. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a call from Summit Industries, William Barrett himself. I let it go to voicemail. Speaking of Summit, Victoria said as our visitors left, "Ready for the next phase?" I nodded, pulling up another presentation. This one detailed my plans for Quantum's new Enterprise Solutions division, including the team I planned to build. "How many Summit employees are we expecting?" Victoria asked. By end of week, I checked my messages. At least 15. All top performers. Perfect. HR's ready with offer letters. The rest of Monday passed in a blur of meetings, planning sessions, and a steady stream of messages from Summit. William Barrett. Voicemail. "Catherine, we need to discuss this Maxwell situation immediately. Call me back." Alex Barrett. Email. "Hey, so like there might be some confusion about the Maxwell project stuff. Can you maybe explain some things? Dad's pretty upset." Summit Board Chairman. Email. "Ms. Mitchell, the board would like to schedule an urgent meeting regarding recent developments. Please advise your availability." I responded to none of them. Instead, I focused on building something new. My team at Quantum was taking shape quickly. Sarah arrived Tuesday morning to head our technical integration unit. Mike joined Wednesday as lead architect. By Thursday, most of Summit's top performers had submitted their resignations. "It's a mass exodus," David reported during our lunch meeting. "HR can't process exit paperwork fast enough. Alex is walking around like a lost puppy, trying to understand the technical documentation you left." "How's William taking it?" "Hasn't left his office in 2 days. Board members keep showing up for closed-door meetings. Stocks down 15% since Maxwell's announcement." I nodded, sliding an offer letter across the table. "Ready to join us?" He grinned, already pulling out a pen. "Been ready since they announced Alex's promotion." Friday morning brought the news I'd been waiting for. Summit Industries had called an emergency shareholder meeting. Reason: discussion of recent material changes in client relationships and personnel matters. Victoria appeared in my office doorway, waving her phone. "Seen the news?" "Just did. Their stock's down 23% now. Analysts are questioning the company's stability after losing Maxwell. Rumors about leadership problems." I smiled, remembering William's dismissive wave. Fresh blood has consequences. Around noon, Linda sent me a screenshot of an email from Alex Barrett, desperately trying to salvage Maxwell's business. It was filled with corporate buzzwords and demonstrated a complete lack of technical understanding. "Please tell me you have a better proposal ready," she wrote. I did. My team had spent the week refining our implementation strategy, incorporating innovations that Summit hadn't even considered. We presented Monday. At 2 p.m., Summit's board chairman called again. This time, I answered. "Catherine," he sounded tired. "I hope you can appreciate the difficult position we're in." I appreciate that actions have consequences, Charles. The board, we may have acted hastily. If you're open to discussing a return, I'm not. A long pause. Catherine, be reasonable. The company's losing millions in value. Alex clearly isn't ready for this role. William knows he made a mistake. No, I cut him off. William knows he's about to lose his job. The board knows they backed the wrong horse. And you all know that Maxwell isn't the only client who trusts me personally with their technical strategy. Another pause. How many more? Guess you'll find out soon enough. By end of day, the news was official. William Barrett had stepped down as CEO of Summit Industries, effective immediately. Alex's appointment was under review, but it was too late. Monday morning, I stood before Quantum's board, presenting our division's first-month projections. The numbers were staggering. Maxwell Technologies is just the beginning, I explained. 3 more major Summit clients have already reached out about transferring their business. Combined annual revenue, approximately $120 million. Victoria beamed. The board members nodded approvingly. Moreover, I continued, we've acquired top talent from Summit's technical teams, people who understand these client relationships, who've built trust over years. My phone buzzed. Another message from Summit's board chairman. Final offer. Name your price, please. I ignored it, focusing on my presentation. By end of quarter, we project our division's revenue will exceed Summit's total annual earnings. That evening, I walked along the harbor, reflecting on how much had changed in just 2 weeks. My new office at Quantum was fully settled. My team was thriving, energized by the opportunity to build something new. Our client pipeline was overflowing. My phone buzzed one last time. A news alert. Summit Industries announces restructuring amid client exodus, stock down 40% year to date. Below that was a LinkedIn update from Alex Barrett. Excited to announce I'm returning to graduate school to deepen my technical knowledge. I smiled, remembering William's words, fresh blood. That's what this company needs. He'd been right about one thing. Summit did need fresh blood. They just didn't realize it would be flowing to their competitors. 1 year later, I stood in Quantum's largest conference room, addressing our now 200-person Enterprise Solutions division. On the screen behind me, a simple graph told the story. Quantum Solutions. Revenue up 180% year-over-year. Summit Industries. Filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Success, I told my team, isn't about titles or family connections. It's about value. Real value. The kind you can't fake with buzzwords or MBA degrees. I looked out at the faces, many former Summit employees who'd followed me to build something better. People who'd been overlooked, undervalued, or pushed aside for someone's son. They thought replacing me with an inexperienced heir was good business. I continued. They didn't realize that real leadership isn't inherited, it's earned. Victoria joined me at the podium to make a special announcement. Our division was being spun off as its own company. I would be CEO. As applause filled the room, I thought about William Barrett's condescending smile, about Alex's clueless arrogance, about a board that valued nepotism over merit. They'd wanted fresh blood. They got it. And the business world had learned a valuable lesson about the true cost of choosing the wrong leader. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising higher than your opponents ever dreamed possible. And we were still rising. They got it. And the business world had learned a valuable lesson about the true cost of choosing the wrong leader. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising higher than your opponents ever dreamed possible. And we were still rising. 15 years of dedication to Mercy General Hospital. And this is what it came down to. Being dismissed like an orderly who'd wandered into the wrong room. Dr. Victor Preston's words echoed in my head as I walked away from the boardroom. This is for actual doctors, not just some nurse. I clutched my designer handbag containing the $50 million check that would save the hospital from bankruptcy and smiled. Tomorrow, they'd learn what just some nurse could do. My name is Alexander Mitchell, and I've spent my entire career being underestimated. When you're a nurse, people see the uniform, not the person. They don't see the nights you spend studying investment reports between rounds. They don't notice you monitoring stock tickers while monitoring patient vitals. And they certainly don't realize that the simple nurse they ignore has built a medical technology empire worth billions. It started 12 years ago, during a particularly brutal night shift in the ER. I watched another patient die because our monitoring systems were too slow, too outdated to catch the warning signs in time. That night, I went home and started sketching designs for what would become the Media Alert system, now standard equipment in hospitals worldwide. But at Mercy General, I was still just Nurse Mitchell, the quiet one who worked extra shifts and never complained. Even as my company, Mitchell Medical Technologies, revolutionized patient care across the globe, I kept working my regular shifts. The hospital was my home, its patients my purpose. Money meant nothing without the ability to directly help people. Nurse Mitchell, a familiar voice called out as I walked down the corridor. Dr. Sarah Wong, one of the few doctors who treated nurses with respect, hurried to catch up. Did they let you into the board meeting? I shook my head, adjusting my badge, still marked nursing staff, despite the fact that I could buy this hospital 10 times over. Apparently, it's for actual doctors only. Sarah's face darkened. That's ridiculous. You've been here longer than most of them. You understand this hospital better than anyone. If she only knew how true that was. For the past 5 years, I'd been anonymously supporting Mercy General through a complex network of shell companies and charitable foundations. Every time the hospital faced a financial crisis, mysterious donations appeared. New equipment arrived just when the old machines were failing. Scholarship funds materialized for promising medical students. But now, with Mercy General facing its biggest crisis yet, the anonymous approach wouldn't work. The hospital needed a complete overhaul. New facilities, updated equipment, expanded emergency services. The price tag, $50 million. Did you hear about Golden State Healthcare's offer? Sarah asked, lowering her voice. They're planning to turn Mercy into a luxury private hospital. No more charity cases, no more emergency services for the uninsured. I nodded grimly. Golden State Healthcare, a profit-focused corporation, had been circling Mercy General like vultures. Their CEO, Maxwell Richards, saw our struggling community hospital as prime real estate for his chain of exclusive medical centers. The board meets tomorrow to vote on the sale, Sarah continued. Dr. Preston's pushing hard for it. Says it's our only option. Dr. Victor Preston, chief of surgery and board chairman, was the biggest advocate for the sale. He'd been promised a prestigious position in Golden State's hierarchy, assuming he could deliver Mercy General on a silver platter. What he didn't know was that I'd spent the last month quietly buying up the hospital's debt through various subsidiaries. The check in my bag wasn't just a donation, it was a takeover. How's Tommy doing? I asked, changing the subject as we approached the pediatric ward. Tommy Martinez, a 10-year-old fighting leukemia, was one of our long-term patients. His family couldn't afford private care, making him exactly the kind of patient Golden State would reject. Hanging in there, Sarah sighed. The new treatment's showing promise, but it's expensive. I finished. Tommy's experimental treatment was another of my anonymous gifts to the hospital. He'll make it, Sarah. We won't let him down. My phone buzzed, a message from my company's legal team. Documentation prepared. Ready to proceed with Operation Mercy tomorrow. I smiled, remembering the day I started planning this takeover. It was 3 months ago, during another late-night shift. I'd overheard Dr. Preston in his office, talking to Maxwell Richards about cleaning house once the sale went through. These bleeding heart nurses and their charity cases, he'd sneered. Time to run this place like a proper business. That night, I called my financial advisors. How quickly can we acquire a controlling interest in a hospital? The answer, if you had enough money and the right legal team, was very quickly indeed. Alexandra? Sarah's voice pulled me back to the present. You okay? You looked miles away. Just thinking about tomorrow's board meeting, I said truthfully. I wish you could be there, she sighed. Someone needs to stand up for what Mercy General really means to this community. Oh, I'll be there, I thought. Just not how anyone expects. Walking through the pediatric ward, I stopped at Tommy's room. He was awake, playing video games, another anonymous gift. His mother dozed in the chair beside him, exhausted from working double shifts to cover what insurance wouldn't. Hey, Nurse Alex, Tommy called out cheerfully. Want to play? I spent the next hour with him, racing cartoon characters while monitoring his vitals. This was why I'd built my company, why I'd kept working as a nurse despite my wealth. Money was meaningless without purpose, and my purpose was here. My phone buzzed again. Press release prepared. Local and national media alerted for tomorrow's announcement. I have to go, Tommy, I said, standing up. Big day tomorrow. Will you tell me who sent the games? He asked hopefully. Mom says it must be an angel. I winked at him. Maybe tomorrow. In the locker room, I changed out of my scrubs into a designer suit that cost more than most doctors made in a month. The duality of my life always amused me. Nurse by choice, billionaire by circumstance. My assistant waited in the parking lot with a stack of documents. Everything's ready, Ms. Mitchell. The lawyers have confirmed our position. Once you present the check tomorrow, the hospital will be ours. I finished. And Dr. Preston's deal with Golden State will be worthless, she smiled. Would you like me to prepare a statement about retaining the current nursing staff? I laughed. Let's wait until after tomorrow's meeting. I want to see their faces first. Driving home to my penthouse apartment, paid for by the profits from medical patents I'd developed between night shifts, I thought about how everything would change tomorrow. No more hiding my success. No more being dismissed as just a nurse. But more importantly, no more worrying about Mercy General's future. No more watching dedicated healthcare workers struggle with inadequate resources. No more families choosing between treatment and bankruptcy. My phone rang. Dr. Preston's number. Probably calling to apologize for earlier, having realized he might need nursing support for his Golden State deal. I let it go to voicemail. Tomorrow, he'd learn exactly who he dismissed from his precious board meeting. Tomorrow, just some nurse would save not just the hospital, but everything it stood for. I pulled out the check one more time, running my fingers over the amount. $50 million to save Mercy General. A bargain, really, considering what it would protect. My watch showed 11:30 p.m. In 12 hours, the board would meet to vote on selling the hospital's soul. But I had a different vote in mind. One backed by enough money and legal power to reshape Mercy General's future. Time to show them what a nurse could really do. 9:00 a.m. I stood in front of Mercy General's main entrance, watching reporters set up their equipment. They'd been told to expect a major announcement about the hospital's future, though none of them knew exactly what was coming. My phone buzzed, a message from my legal team. Golden State representatives have arrived. Dr. Preston is showing them the facilities. Perfect timing. I straightened my Armani suit, a far cry from my usual scrubs, and headed inside. The hospital corridors felt different this morning. No badge, no uniform, no pretense of being just a nurse. Today, I was Alexander Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell Medical Technologies and soon-to-be owner of Mercy General Hospital. Alex? Sarah's voice stopped me near the elevator. She did a double take at my appearance. What's with the power suit? I thought I'd dress up for the board meeting, I smiled. But they wouldn't let you. Her voice trailed off as she noticed the portfolio in my hands. What are you planning? Come watch and see. The boardroom was on the top floor, with views overlooking the city. Through the glass walls, I could see them assembling. Board members in expensive suits, Golden State executives with predatory smiles, and Dr. Preston at the head of the table, probably already counting his bonus. My assistant appeared at my elbow. Everything's in place. The press is standing by. Security has been briefed. And the documents? She patted her briefcase. All here. Shall we? I checked my watch. 9:15 a.m. Time to crash their party. The boardroom door opened smoothly under my hand. Conversation stopped mid-sentence as heads turned to stare. Dr. Preston's face darkened with recognition and anger. Nurse Mitchell, this is a private meeting. Security. Actually, I said calmly, I have every right to be here. More right than some of you, in fact. Maxwell Richards, Golden State's CEO, frowned at Preston. Who is this? Nobody, Preston snapped. Just a nurse who doesn't know her place. Security will remove. Alexander Mitchell. I cut in smoothly. CEO of Mitchell Medical Technologies and majority debt holder of Mercy General Hospital. The silence was absolute. Preston's face went from red to white as the implications hit him. Several board members started frantically Googling on their phones. Impossible, Preston whispered. My assistant stepped forward, opening her briefcase. The documentation is quite clear. Over the past 3 months, Ms. Mitchell's companies have acquired controlling interest in Mercy General's debt obligations. Additionally, she began distributing folders containing proof of my ownership, my company's financials, and, most importantly, evidence of Preston's backroom dealings with Golden State. This is outrageous. Preston stood, his chair scraping back. The sale to Golden State is already arranged. Is it? I smiled, pulling out the check. Because I'm prepared to offer an alternative. $50 million, Dr. Preston. Enough to clear the hospital's debt, upgrade all facilities, and establish an endowment for future growth. Maxwell Richards leaned forward, shark-like eyes reassessing me. Mitchell Medical Technologies. The Media Alert System. That was you. I nodded. Along with 37 other medical patents currently in use worldwide, including, Dr. Preston, the surgical monitoring system you praised in last month's medical journal. Preston collapsed back into his chair, remembering his glowing review of technology created by just some nurse. The boardroom door opened again. Sarah entered, followed by a stream of hospital staff, nurses, technicians, orderlies. The people Preston had never bothered to notice. "What is this?" he demanded. "Witnesses," I said simply. "The people who actually make this hospital work. The ones your deal with Golden State would discard." I turned to address the entire room. For 15 years, I've worked at this hospital. I've watched dedicated professionals struggle with inadequate resources. I've seen families bankrupt themselves for care. I've witnessed the slow erosion of everything Mercy General stands for. Walking to the window, I gestured at the gathering media below. Out there are reporters waiting to hear one of two stories. Either Mercy General sells its soul to become another overpriced private facility, or it recommits to its original mission, providing care to everyone who needs it. The money, Preston found his voice. "Where did you?" "I earned it." I cut him off. "Every penny. While you were playing politics and making deals, I was solving problems, creating solutions, building something real." My assistant distributed more documents, plans for hospital upgrades, endowment structures, staff retention guarantees. "The choice is simple," I continued. "Accept my offer, and Mercy General becomes a state-of-the-art teaching hospital with guaranteed funding for charitable care. Refuse, and I'll call those reporters right now with evidence of your dealings with Golden State, including," I paused significantly, "the offshore accounts." Preston went pale. Maxwell Richards stood abruptly. "This meeting is over. Golden State withdraws its offer." "Wise choice," I smiled. "The elevator is that way." As the Golden State executives filed out, the hospital staff began to whisper and point at their phones. The story was breaking. Nurse reveal his billionaire tech CEO. Hidden hospital angel emerges. Mercy General saved by unlikely hero. "You've been lying to us for years," Preston accused, desperate to regain control, "pretending to be something you're not." "No, Dr. Preston. I am exactly what I've always been, a nurse who cares about this hospital and its patients. The only difference is, now I have the power to protect it." The board voted unanimously to accept my offer. They didn't really have a choice. I already controlled most of the hospital's debt. But the public show of support would make the transition smoother. As the meeting concluded, Sarah approached me, shaking her head in amazement. All this time, those anonymous donations, the new equipment, Tommy's treatment. "Guilty?" I admitted. "Though I'd appreciate if you didn't tell him just yet. Let him believe in angels a little longer." The boardroom slowly emptied, leaving me alone with Preston. He sat there, staring at his shattered dreams of corporate wealth. "Why?" he asked finally. "Why keep working as a nurse when you had all this?" I thought about Tommy playing his video games, about his mother working double shifts, about every patient who needed more than just medical care. They needed compassion, dedication, humanity. Because being a nurse isn't what I do, Dr. Preston. It's who I am. The money, the companies, the patents, they're just tools to do it better. My phone buzzed. The press was waiting for a statement. Time to go public with my vision for Mercy General's future. "Oh, and Dr. Preston?" I paused at the door. "I'll need your resignation by end of day. This hospital needs a chief of surgery who understands that every member of our staff, from janitors to surgeons, deserves respect." He nodded numbly, finally comprehending just how completely his world had changed. Outside the boardroom, Sarah waited with a small crowd of nurses. Their expressions ranged from shock to joy to lingering disbelief. "What happens now, boss?" someone called out. I smiled, straightening my badge, still marked nursing staff, because that's what I chose to be. Now we build the hospital our patients deserve, starting with the pediatric ward. The future of Mercy General was secure. But first, I had a press conference to handle. And after that, I had a night shift to work. Because some things, the most important things, wouldn't change at all. 6 months later, and with this ribbon cutting, we officially opened the new Mercy General Emergency Care Center. Applause erupted as I handed the scissors to Tommy Martinez, our honorary guest. Now in remission, he beamed as he cut the red ribbon, officially opening the most advanced emergency department in the state. "You did it, Nurse Alex," he whispered as I helped him back into his wheelchair. "You really were our angel." The past 6 months had transformed Mercy General. The $50 million investment had been just the beginning. Once my full resources were committed, the hospital underwent a metamorphosis that made it the talk of the medical community. But the biggest changes weren't the obvious ones. Not the new equipment, renovated facilities, or expanded services. The real transformation was in the hospital's soul. "Ms. Mitchell," a reporter called out, "how does it feel to be named Healthcare Innovator of the Year?" I adjusted my name badge, still reading nursing staff, despite my new official role as hospital owner and board chairperson. The real innovators are our staff. They're the ones who identify problems and inspire solutions. "And you still work regular nursing shifts, even after the Forbes cover?" "Especially after the Forbes cover," I smiled. "You can't improve healthcare from a corner office. You have to be on the floor, working with patients, understanding their needs." The media loved the story. The billionaire nurse who saved her hospital. They called it a fairy tale, a rags-to-riches story. They missed the point entirely. Later that evening, during my regular night shift, Sarah found me checking on Tommy. "The board meeting minutes are ready for your review," she said, now serving as chief of medicine after Preston's departure. "And the new scholarship committee needs your input." "Put them on my desk," I replied, adjusting Tommy's IV. "I'll review them after rounds." "Still can't believe you kept this schedule," she mused. 3 nights a week on regular rotation, running a billion-dollar company, and managing hospital operations. "Balance," I said simply. "The company provides resources, the hospital provides purpose." My phone buzzed, a message from my corporate office about a new medical technology breakthrough. It could wait. Right now, Tommy needed his medication. The night shift passed as it always had, checking patients, updating charts, handling emergencies. The only difference was occasional interruptions from my assistant about business matters. "The Singapore deal needs your signature," she whispered during a brief break. "And the new Media Alert upgrade is ready for testing." "Schedule the signing for tomorrow," I replied, hearing the emergency alert. Right now, we have incoming traumas. The ER filled quickly. A major car accident had brought multiple casualties. I worked alongside the same nurses and doctors who, 6 months ago, had seen me only as just a nurse. Now they knew who I was, but more importantly, they understood why I chose to be exactly where I was. "Nurse Mitchell," Dr. Rodriguez called out, "we need your expertise on this patient's monitoring setup." The Media Alert system, my first major invention, had evolved based on direct experience with patients. Every upgrade, Every improvement came from real-world needs identified during shifts like this. As dawn approached, I made my final rounds. The pediatric ward had been completely renovated, now featuring private rooms equipped with the latest technology. But technology wasn't everything. Each room also had comfortable beds for parents, relaxation areas for families, and all the human touches that made healing possible. Morning, boss. The day shift nurses greeted me as they arrived. Some still struggled with how to address me. Was I Nurse Mitchell? Ms. Mitchell? The CEO? I'm still just Alex. I reminded them, the titles don't matter. In my office, a modest space near the nurses' station, not the palatial boardroom, I finally tackled the administrative work. Hospital financials, corporate reports, research proposals, and investment opportunities all demanded attention. A knock at the door interrupted my review. Maxwell Richards, the former Golden State CEO, stood there looking uncomfortable. Ms. Mitchell, do you have a moment? I gestured to a chair, curious. He'd disappeared after the failed takeover, his predatory healthcare model rejected. I've been following what you've done here, he said carefully. The financial models, the operational improvements, the patient outcomes. It's remarkable. Thank you. Our board, we've been discussing a possible partnership. Not a takeover, he added quickly, but implementing your methods across our facilities. Making healthcare more humane. I studied him thoughtfully. And the profit margins. Actually improved, he admitted. Your efficiency models, combined with the goodwill from community support, we're seeing better numbers than our luxury-only approach generated. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared months ago, anticipating this conversation. Here's a preliminary proposal. Review it with your board. But understand, any partnership requires maintaining full charitable care services and staff protection. He took the folder, nodding. You planned for this? I planned for everything, Mr. Richards. It's what good nurses do. After he left, I changed back into scrubs for my weekly pediatric rounds. The children didn't care about my net worth or corporate titles. To them, I was still just Nurse Alex, who played video games and told stories. Tommy was being discharged today. Is treatment successful? His mother waited with tears in her eyes. How can we ever repay you? She asked. Study hard, I told Tommy. Maybe become a nurse yourself someday. But I thought nurses couldn't be rich and powerful, he said innocently. I winked at him. That's exactly what they used to tell me. 1 year later, Mercy General became a model for hospitals nationwide. Our patient care protocols, financial structure, and staff empowerment programs were studied and replicated. The partnership with Golden State transformed dozens of facilities back into true community hospitals. The Nursing Scholarship Program, funded by my company's profits, graduated its first class. Each new nurse received not just education, but mentorship and support to pursue their own innovations. Dr. Preston occasionally sent congratulatory notes about the hospital's success, each one carefully archived with my collection of actual doctors-only memories. Success, as they say, is the best revenge. My dual life continued. Hospital shifts, corporate meetings, research reviews, and patient care blending into a purpose-driven whole. The media eventually tired of the billionaire nurse story, moving on to newer sensations. But the real story wasn't about money or power. It was about remembering why we do what we do. Late one night, during a quiet moment in the ER, Sarah found me updating charts at the nurses' station. You know, she said, you could have bought any hospital, built a new one. Why save this one? I thought about all the lives touched within these walls, all the dedicated professionals who worked miracles with limited resources, all the patients who needed not just care, but compassion. Because some things are worth more than money, I replied. Some things you can't buy. You have to build them, protect them, fight for them. Like a nurse's dedication. Exactly like that. My phone buzzed. Another corporate crisis demanding attention. But first, I had patience to check. Because at the end of the day, I wasn't a billionaire who chose to be a nurse. I was a nurse who became a billionaire. And I never forgot the difference. Epilogue. 5 years later, Mercy General's model revolutionized healthcare delivery across the country. Other hospitals adopted our approach, balancing advanced technology with human compassion, financial stability with charitable mission. The MediaAlert system evolved into a comprehensive healthcare platform, saving countless lives worldwide. Every upgrade still came from direct patient care experience, from real nurses solving real problems. Tommy graduated high school as valedictorian, heading to nursing school on a full scholarship. His graduation speech mentioned angels who walk hospital corridors in nurses' uniforms, proving that power and compassion aren't mutually exclusive. I still work night shifts, still wear the same badge, still believe in the importance of direct patient care. My corporate empire grows, but its purpose remains unchanged, supporting and advancing the work that happens in hospital corridors every day. Sometimes, new staff members are surprised to find the hospital's owner changing bedpans or checking vitals. They expect wealth to mean distance, power to mean delegation. They don't understand that true power comes from purpose, not position. That real success isn't about escaping the front lines. It's about improving them. Just a nurse, they used to say. Now they understand. There's no such thing as just a nurse. There are only people dedicated enough to do whatever it takes. Whether that's inventing new technology, building business empires, or simply holding a patient's hand through the darkest hours of the night. That's what I am. That's what I'll always be. A nurse who proved that compassion and power can work the same shift, that wealth and dedication can share the same badge, that changing the world sometimes starts with changing a bandage. And every time I pin on that badge, still marked nursing staff, after all these years, I remember the truth that Dr. Preston and his kind never understood. Sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one wearing scrubs. Sometimes the richest person is the one who never forgot why they started. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong, it's proving yourself right. Every single shift, every single patient, every single day. I never expected loyalty from Meridian Technologies. 10 years of dedication had taught me that corporate promises were as fragile as morning frost. But watching Marcus Thompson smirk from behind my former desk still made my stomach turn. "The severance package is generous," he said, sliding the envelope across the polished mahogany surface. "More than fair, considering." Considering what? The ad spent a decade building Meridian's merger and acquisition division from scratch. That my strategies had helped the company absorb 20 smaller firms without a single antitrust issue, or that I just finished laying the groundwork for their biggest acquisition yet, the one that would put Meridian among the top 3 tech companies in the country. I knew better than to ask these questions aloud. Instead, I maintained the same calm expression I'd worn through countless negotiations and the ongoing projects. Marcus's smirk widened. "Don't worry about those. Harrison will handle everything." Harrison, the CEO's son. fresh out of business school with an MBA and a trust fund, but without a single day of real experience. The real reason I was being restructured out of my position. Of course, I said, picking up the envelope. I assume my personal files. It has already cleared your computer, Marcus cut in. Standard procedure. Security will escort you to collect your personal items. The two guards hovering by the door shifted uncomfortably. They'd worked with me for years, watched me arrive early and leave late, seen me guide the company through countless complex deals. That won't be necessary, I said, standing. I keep everything important up here. I tapped my temple with my index finger. Marcus's smirk faltered slightly. He knew what I meant. The relationships I'd built, the strategies I'd developed, the intimate knowledge of every deal we'd ever made. None of that could be deleted from a hard drive. You signed an NDA, he reminded me sharply. I did, I agreed. And I always honor my contracts, unlike some people. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. Was that a threat, Alexandra? I looked back, meeting his eyes. Just an observation, Marcus. One professional to another. The walk to my office felt like a funeral procession. Employees quickly looked away as I passed, their faces a mix of pity and fear. News traveled fast in corporate corridors. My office, my home for the past decade, had already been partially packed. Someone had thrown my personal items into cardboard boxes, mixing photographs with industry awards, client files with coffee mugs. A small frame caught my attention. My first major deal at Meridian, a $50 million acquisition that had put us on the map. CEO Richard Harrison had personally congratulated me, promising this was just the beginning of a long and prosperous partnership. Now his son would sit in my chair, inherit my projects, and probably take credit for my years of work. The thought should have made me angry, but instead, I felt an odd sense of calm. I'd seen enough corporate takeovers to know that incompetence eventually reveals itself. Ms. Walker? A soft voice interrupted my thoughts. Sarah from HR stood in the doorway, clutching a tablet. I need you to sign these final documents. Sarah had started as my intern 5 years ago. I'd mentored her, helped her navigate the corporate landscape. Now she couldn't meet my eyes. They didn't give you a choice, did they? I asked quietly. She shook her head slightly. I'm so sorry. What they're doing, it's not right. I signed the documents without reading them. Whatever severance they were offering wouldn't matter soon anyway. Take care of yourself, Sarah. And, I hesitated, then added, keep good records. She looked up, startled by my tone. What do you mean? Just a habit I picked up over the years. Documentation is everything in our line of work. I picked up the single box containing 10 years of my life and walked out of Meridian Technologies for the last time. The security guards insisted on escorting me to my car, but their posture was apologetic rather than intimidating. As I placed the box in my trunk, my phone buzzed. A message from Tom Chen at the Federal Trade Commission. Heard what happened. Let's have coffee. I smiled, remembering all the times I'd negotiated with Tom during Meridian's acquisitions. He'd always said I was on the wrong side of the table, that my skills would be better used protecting market competition rather than consolidating it. The next message was from Marcus. Final reminder about the NDA. Any breach will result in immediate legal action. I didn't bother responding. Instead, I took one last look at the gleaming Meridian Technologies building, its 50 stories of glass and steel reaching into the afternoon sky. Harrison Jr. would be moving into my office now, probably rearranging everything to match his MBA textbook vision of corporate success. Let him have it. Let him have all of it. The office, the title, the illusion of power. Because what I had was worth far more. Knowledge, experience, and most importantly, patience. Pulling out of the parking garage, I finally allowed myself to think about the massive merger I'd been orchestrating before my termination. Meridian's biggest move yet, a $2.8 billion acquisition that would give them control of nearly 40% of the enterprise software market. A deal that would require Federal Trade Commission approval. A deal that Harrison Jr., with all his theoretical knowledge and family connections, would now have to shepherd through the complex regulatory process. A process that would cross the desk of someone with intimate knowledge of Meridian's inner workings, someone who understood exactly where to look for potential antitrust violations. I checked my rearview mirror, watching Meridian's tower recede into the distance. The severance package sat unopened on my passenger seat, along with a decade of memories and a lifetime of lessons learned. My phone buzzed again. Tom, coffee tomorrow? 9 a.m. at Catalyst? I typed a quick response. Looking forward to it. Marcus's words echoed in my mind. The CEO's son needs your position. I wondered if Harrison Jr. would need my position as much when his precious merger landed on my desk at the Federal Trade Commission, where every document would require my signature, every meeting would need my approval, and every decision would pass through my expert review. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but in my experience, it's best served with irrefutable documentation and regulatory authority. I drove home that evening with a strange sense of peace. 10 years at Meridian had taught me many things. But perhaps the most valuable lesson was this. In the world of corporate power plays, the real game isn't about who sits in the corner office. It's about who holds the cards when they really matter. That night, as I sat in my home office reviewing the preliminary notes I'd secretly kept on Meridian's upcoming merger, my phone lit up with LinkedIn notifications. Word of my departure had spread, and connections were already reaching out with opportunities. But I had only one destination in mind. I opened my laptop and began composing an email to Tom, outlining my interest in the FTC position we discussed hypothetically over the years. As I typed, I could almost hear Marcus's condescending voice. The severance package is generous. They thought they were paying me to go away quietly. Instead, they were funding my transition to the one position that could truly show them the cost of their betrayal. I attached my resume, updated to highlight my extensive experience in corporate mergers and acquisitions, particularly in the tech sector. 10 years of inside knowledge that would now serve a different purpose. Before hitting send, I glanced at the family photo on my desk. Me with my younger sister on her college graduation day. Always have a backup plan, I told her. And make sure it's the last thing they expect. The email went out at exactly midnight. By morning, the pieces would begin falling into place. Harrison Jr. could have my old office, my title, even my projects. But some things can't be inherited or bought. Things like experience, insight, and the ability to see 3 moves ahead. Things they'd soon discover were worth far more than any severance package. The real game was just beginning. And this time, I wouldn't be playing by their rules. The Federal Trade Commission's office in Washington, D.C. was a far cry from Meridian's gleaming corporate tower. No marble lobbies or elaborate artwork here, just the quiet efficiency of government service. But as I sat in my new office 6 months later, I knew I'd found something more valuable than corporate luxury. Real power. The Meridian Tech Core merger documents just arrived. Tom announced, dropping a thick folder on my desk. Guess who's leading their acquisition team? I didn't need to look. Harrison Jr. Got it in one. Tom leaned against my doorframe, grinning. The same Harrison Jr. who's made 3 major procedural errors in the preliminary filing. Want to see? I held up my hand. Send them to my team. I need to maintain complete objectivity. Tom nodded approvingly. You're taking this seriously. I have to. I turned to look out my window at the Capitol building in the distance. They'll be watching for any sign of bias. One mistake, and the whole review could be compromised. The irony wasn't lost on me. After firing me to make room for the CEO's son, Meridian had inadvertently positioned me as the gatekeeper for their most ambitious expansion yet. But personal satisfaction wouldn't be enough. I needed to play this perfectly. My phone buzzed. A message from Sarah, my former intern at Meridian. Harrison Jr. just had a meltdown in the M&A department. The regulatory compliance team found major issues with his merger strategy. I'd kept in touch with several former colleagues, not for insider information, but to stay informed about the company's public moves. Harrison Jr.'s struggles weren't surprising. He'd inherited my position, but not my experience, my connections, or my understanding of regulatory nuance. Alexandra? My assistant poked her head in. The preliminary review meeting is starting. Harrison's team is on video conference. I straightened my jacket and gathered my materials. Time to give Harrison Jr. his first lesson in real-world corporate strategy. The conference room was packed with FTC analysts and legal experts. On the large screen, Meridian's team filled their side of the virtual meeting. Harrison Jr. sat front and center, his expensive suit and practiced smile, a perfect reflection of corporate privilege. His smile faltered slightly when he saw me. Clearly, no one had told him who now headed the FTC's tech sector merger review division. Good morning, I began, my voice professionally neutral. Let's discuss the proposed Meridian TechCore merger. Our initial review has identified several areas of concern. For the next 2 hours, I led my team through a methodical dissection of the merger proposal, every flaw in Harrison's strategy, every oversight in market impact analysis, every rushed assumption about competition effects. We exposed them all. I watched Harrison's confidence crumble as he struggled to defend his work. The NBA theories he'd relied on proved useless against practical regulatory experience. These issues, I concluded, raise serious questions about market concentration and competitive impact. We'll need comprehensive revisions and additional documentation before proceeding. But the shareholder vote is in 6 weeks, Harrison protested. We can't delay. Then I suggest you address these concerns quickly, I replied calmly. The FTC's duty is to protect market competition, not meet corporate deadlines. After the meeting, Tom found me in my office. That was masterful, he said. Completely professional, absolutely by the book, and utterly devastating. It wasn't personal, I replied, although we both knew better. Every concern we raised was legitimate. Of course. He paused. You know they'll try to go above you? Harrison Sr. has friends in high places. I smiled. So do we. That's why we document everything, follow every procedure, and make our decisions bulletproof. That evening, as I reviewed more merger documents, my phone lit up with a familiar number. Marcus Thompson, my former boss. Alexandra. His voice had lost its smirk. We should talk. All communication about the merger should go through official channels, I replied. This isn't about the merger. It's about rectifying a situation. The board has been discussing your departure, and we feel. Goodbye, Marcus. I hung up, but the calls kept coming. Board members, executives, even Harrison Sr.'s office. They all wanted to discuss opportunities. What they really wanted was to neutralize me, to find some way to remove me from the merger review process. But they were too late. 2 weeks later, Sarah sent me another message. Emergency board meeting today. Harrison Jur's merger strategy is falling apart. Market analysts are getting nervous. I didn't respond, but I understood the panic. Meridian had positioned this merger as transformative, promising shareholders a major market expansion. Any significant delay or complication could send their stock price tumbling. That afternoon, I received an official request for an expedited review process, citing market urgency and shareholder interests. The document was signed by Harrison Jr., but I recognized Marcus's writing style. I drafted my response carefully. The FTC's review process cannot be expedited without compromising our regulatory duty. All standard procedures and timelines remain in effect. Tom dropped by later. Meridian's stock dropped 8% today. Rumors about merger troubles. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. The market reacts to uncertainty. Harrison Jr.'s giving interviews, promising the merger's on track, but analysts aren't buying it. He studied me carefully. You know they're desperate now. They'll try something. Let them try. I gestured to the wall of files behind me. Every decision, every communication, every review step. It's all documented and witnessed. They can't touch this process without raising red flags they can't afford. That night, working late, I received one final message. From Harrison Sr. himself, name your price. I stared at those 4 words, remembering the day his son had taken my position, the smirk on Marcus's face, the betrayal of a decade's loyalty. My reply was simple. Some things aren't for sale, but full regulatory compliance is available free of charge. The next day, Meridian's stock dropped another 5%. Financial news channels began running stories about troubled mergers and regulatory hurdles. Harrison Jr.'s smiling interviews couldn't stop the market's growing skepticism. I watched it all with professional detachment, focusing on my team's thorough review process. Every I dotted, every T crossed, every regulatory requirement meticulously enforced. They had taught me well at Meridian. Documentation is everything. Now those lessons were coming back to haunt them. As I left the office that evening, Tom caught up with me in the parking garage. Meridian's board is meeting again tomorrow. Rumor has it Harrison Jr.'s position might be in jeopardy. The FTC doesn't concern itself with internal corporate politics, I replied diplomatically. He laughed. Of course not. But hypothetically, if a company wanted to save a troubled merger, they'd need someone who understands both sides of the process. Someone with experience in both corporate strategy and regulatory compliance. Hypothetically, Tom agreed. I got into my car, smiling slightly. Hypothetically, that person would need to be very patient and very thorough. The next day would bring more desperate calls, more attempts at negotiation, more promises and threats. But I had learned long ago that real power isn't about corner offices or corporate titles. It's about being in exactly the right position when others realize exactly how much they've underestimated you. And Meridian was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The morning of Meridian's final merger presentation dawned clear and cold. As I walked into the FTC's main conference room, I could feel the tension in the air. This wasn't just another regulatory review. It was the moment everything would change. Sarah's text had arrived an hour earlier. Board gave Harrison Jr. an ultimatum. Make this work today, or else. His father won't protect him anymore. I set up my materials methodically, arranging the documented violations, market analysis reports, and compliance requirements in perfect order. The room slowly filled with FTC officials, legal teams, and economic analysts. Everyone knew this was no ordinary merger review. At precisely 9:00 a.m., Meridian's delegation arrived. Harrison Jr. led the group, his usual confidence replaced by barely concealed panic. Behind him came Marcus Thompson, looking like he hadn't slept in days. And there, bringing up the rear with thunderous expression, Harrison Sr. himself. "Welcome to the Federal Trade Commission," I began, my voice carrying that same calm tone I'd used thousands of times in corporate negotiations. "Today, we'll make our final determination on the Meridian TechCore merger application." Harrison Sr. stepped forward. "Ms. Walker, before we begin, all comments must be part of the official record," I interrupted smoothly. "Shall we proceed with a formal review?" For the next 2 hours, my team methodically presented our findings. Every flaw in the merger proposal, every market concentration concern, every compliance failure, laid out with meticulous documentation and irrefutable evidence. Harrison Jr.'s attempts at defense grew increasingly desperate. His rehearsed responses crumbled under precise questioning. His MBA theories wilted against practical regulatory requirements. "This is absurd," Marcus finally exploded. "These are minor technical issues." "Minor?" I raised an eyebrow, sliding a document across the table. "Would you consider a 47% market concentration minor? Or these undisclosed subsidiary holdings?" Another document. "Or perhaps these anti-competitive clauses buried in page 247 of the merger agreement." The room fell silent. These weren't just technical violations. They were serious issues that could kill any merger application. "How did you?" Harrison Jr.'s voice trailed off as realization dawned. These were exactly the kind of details I used to catch during my time at Meridian. The kind of pitfalls I had warned about in countless meetings. The kind of mistakes an experienced executive would never make. "The FTC's preliminary conclusion," I continued, "is that this merger as currently structured would create significant anti-competitive effects in violation of Section 7 of the Clayton Act." Harrison Sr.'s face had turned an interesting shade of purple. "This is a vendetta. Every finding is fully documented and independently verified," I replied, gesturing to the mountain of evidence. "Feel free to appeal our decision. Of course, that would extend the review process by another 6 to 8 months, during which time market uncertainty might." I didn't need to finish the sentence. Meridian's stock had already dropped 30% since the merger troubles began. Another 8 months of delays would be catastrophic. "What do you want?" Harrison Sr. demanded. "The FTC wants what it always wants: compliance with antitrust laws and protection of market competition." I paused, then added, "However, there might be a way to restructure the merger to address our concerns." "How?" "You'd need someone with intimate knowledge of both corporate strategy and regulatory requirements. Someone who understands the complexities of tech sector consolidation while maintaining competitive markets." I met his gaze steadily. Someone with experience on both sides of the table. The implication hung in the air. Harrison Jr. slumped in his chair, defeated. Marcus stared at his hands. And Harrison Sr., the man who'd approved my firing to make room for his son, finally understood the full cost of his decision. "The board meets in 2 hours," he said quietly. "I'll save you some time." I replied, pulling out one final document. Here's a detailed proposal for restructuring the merger in compliance with all regulatory requirements. My team prepared it weeks ago, anticipating this moment. You've had the solution all along. Marcus sounded strangled. The FTC's goal is to make mergers work within the law, not prevent them entirely. I smiled slightly. Of course, implementing these changes would require experienced leadership. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Meridian's board met in emergency session. Harrison Jr. resigned to pursue other opportunities. Press releases were crafted, and a new organizational chart was drawn up, one that looked remarkably different from the day they'd escorted me out of the building. By evening, Meridian had announced a strategic restructuring of their merger plan. The markets responded immediately, their stock recovering as analysts praised the company's sophisticated approach to regulatory compliance. Tom found me in my office as I was packing up. Heard you're heading back to the private sector. Executive Vice President of Strategy and Regulatory Compliance. I confirmed. A new position, reporting directly to the board. He grinned. And Harrison Jr.? I believe he's taking some time to gain practical experience at a smaller firm. You planned this whole thing, didn't you? From the moment they fired you? I thought back to that day in my old office, looking at my awards while Marcus smirked from behind my desk. Let's just say I understood the game better than they did. The next morning, I walked back into Meridian's headquarters. The security guards who had escorted me out 2 years ago now nodded respectfully. Employees who had once avoided eye contact stopped to congratulate me. Sarah met me at the elevator. Your new office is ready. It's bigger than your old one. And she smiled. It has a perfect view of Harrison Jr.'s old parking space. Have facilities reassign that spot, I replied. We've got more important things to focus on. My new office was indeed larger, with a corner view of the city. On the desk sat a single envelope, the same severance package I'd never opened 2 years ago. A note from Harrison Sr. was attached. Lesson learned. I dropped both in the shredder without opening them. Some things are worth more than money. Marcus appeared in my doorway, all his old arrogance replaced by nervous deference. The merger team is ready for you. No, I corrected him, picking up my folder of regulatory compliance strategies. They're ready to learn. As I walked into the conference room, filled with eager faces waiting to understand how their new EVP had outmaneuvered everyone, I thought about all the lessons learned. About patience and preparation. About understanding the real sources of power. About knowing when to wait and when to strike. But mostly, I thought about that day 2 years ago, when they thought taking my office meant taking my power. They never understood that real influence doesn't come from titles or corner offices. It comes from knowing exactly who you are, what you know, and most importantly, how to make others realize your true value only after it's too late to stop you. Harrison Jr.'s MBA theories never taught him that, but I have a feeling he's learning it now. One humbling lesson at a time. As for me, I got a merger to fix, a company to reshape, and a few more lessons to teach about underestimating the wrong person. After all, in the world of corporate power plays, the real victory isn't in taking someone's position. It's in making them give it back to you, and thank you for accepting it. My name is Olivia Bennett, and I never thought I'd be thrown out of my own grandmother's funeral. But there I stood, in my black dress, watching my so-called family slam the door in my face. The worst part, I was the only one who truly knew Grandma Rose. Growing up, I was always different from the rest of the Bennetts. While my cousins Sophia and Marcus chased prestigious degrees and corporate positions, I preferred spending time in Grandma Rose's antique shop, learning about vintage treasures and forgotten stories. "You have an eye for value, Olivia," Grandma would say, teaching me how to identify genuine artifacts from replicas. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not everything valuable shines. My parents never understood our bond. "You're wasting your time with old junk," my mother would scoff. Look at Sophia, already a junior executive at 25, and Marcus with his MBA from Harvard. But Grandma Rose saw something in me that nobody else did. While my family measured success in degrees and bank accounts, she taught me about legacy, integrity, and the true meaning of wealth. The Bennetts weren't always about corporate ladders and stock portfolios, she'd tell me, her eyes twinkling. We built our fortune by understanding value, real value, in things others overlooked. I didn't know then that those lessons would become my greatest inheritance. The day Grandma Rose passed, something in my family changed. The thin veneer of civility cracked, revealing the ugly greed beneath. They couldn't even wait until after the funeral to start fighting over her estate. The antique shop must be worth millions, Sophie declared during the wake, her voice carrying across the funeral home. All those rare pieces she's collected over the years. Marcus nodded, already calculating. The real estate alone in downtown Boston, prime location. We could sell it to developers. I stood in the corner, my heart breaking. They saw dollar signs where I saw memories. Each piece in that shop had a story, a history that Grandma Rose had carefully preserved. The funeral was a spectacle of false grief. My Uncle Thomas, who hadn't visited Grandma in years, suddenly couldn't stop crying about his beloved mother. Aunt Patricia, who once called Grandma Rose an embarrassing relic, now praised her traditional values. I sat in the back row alone. When I tried to say a few words about Grandma, Sophia cut me off. "We don't need to hear from the shop girl," she sneered. "This is for real family." Real family. As if spending every weekend for the past 15 years helping Grandma in the shop, listening to her stories, learning her craft, meant nothing. After the service, I headed to Grandma's house. Our Sunday tradition was to have tea in her library. But when I reached for the door, my mother blocked my path. "Where do you think you're going?" she demanded. "This isn't your home anymore." "I just want to," I started, but Uncle Thomas interrupted. "Get-out," he roared. "You don't deserve to be here. You're not even a real Bennett, just some charity case Rose felt sorry for." The words stung, but not as much as watching my family nod in agreement. Even my father remained silent, avoiding my eyes. Grandma Rose was the only real family I had anyway, I said quietly, turning away from their hateful stares. Sophia's laughter followed me down the steps. "Enjoy going back to your little shop job. Some of us have real careers to manage." They had no idea that Grandma's shop cleared 7 figures monthly in online rare antique sales. She had modernized the business years ago, building a global clientele while maintaining the quaint storefront as a cover. But I kept that knowledge to myself, just as Grandma had taught me. 2 days later, Mr. Harrison, Grandma's lawyer for over 30 years, called an emergency meeting to read the will. The entire family gathered in his mahogany-paneled office, already dividing the spoils in their minds. I almost didn't go, but something in Mr. Harrison's voice when he called, a hint of satisfaction, made me curious. I arrived last, taking a seat near the door. Sophia and Marcus sat front and center, while my parents and aunts and uncles filled the expensive leather chairs. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. Before we begin, Mrs. Bennet, Rose left specific instructions about the reading of her will. He pulled out an envelope, sealed with dark red wax bearing Grandma's distinctive R insignia. She asked that I read this letter first. The room fell silent as he broke the seal. My dearest family, if you're hearing this, I've finally taken my last antiquing trip. Don't waste money on an elaborate funeral. We both know most of you are only there to ensure your place in this will. Sophia shifted uncomfortably in her seat. For years, I've watched this family forget what truly matters. You've replaced values with valuations, character with careers. You've become so focused on status that you've lost sight of substance. But one person remembered. One person understood what I was trying to preserve wasn't just a collection of antiques, but a legacy of understanding true worth. My heart pounded as Mr. Harrison continued reading. To my family who measures success in dollars, congratulations. You're about to learn exactly how much you've lost. He set down the letter and picked up the will itself. The room held its breath. To Sophia Bennet, Marcus Bennet, and all other grandchildren except Olivia, I leave the sum of $1 each. The explosion was immediate. Sophia jumped to her feet, her face red with rage. Marcus started shouting about contesting the will, but Mr. Harrison wasn't finished. To my children, Thomas, Patricia, James, and Elizabeth, I leave my collection of family photographs so you can remember when you still knew the value of family. My father, James, slumped in his chair, while Uncle Thomas turned purple with fury. This is a joke, Aunt Patricia screeched. Where's the real will? Mr. Harrison held up his hand for silence. And finally, every head turned toward him. To my beloved granddaughter Olivia, who understood that true wealth isn't measured in bank accounts, but in the richness of character, I leave the entirety of my estate, including but not limited to Bennet Antiques International, all associated real estate holdings, my personal collection, and all business interests under the Bennet Group umbrella. The room exploded into chaos, but I barely heard them. My eyes were fixed on the next line Mr. Harrison was reading. Current total valuation, $4.8 billion. I felt the blood drain from my face as the number registered. Billion. With a B. This is impossible, Sophia screamed. She ran a dusty antique shop. Mr. Harrison smiled for the first time. Actually, Mrs. Rose Bennet was one of the most successful international antiquities dealers in the world. The shop was just the tip of the iceberg. He turned to me. Miss Olivia, your grandmother left instructions to meet privately to discuss the full extent of your inheritance. Shall we say tomorrow morning? I nodded, still unable to speak. As I stood to leave, my mother grabbed my arm. Olivia, sweetheart, we need to talk about this as a family. I gently removed her hand. Family? You threw me out of her funeral 2 days ago. Remember? The look of desperate calculation in her eyes made me sick. I turned to Mr. Harrison. Is there anything else for today? He shook his head. The rest can wait until tomorrow. As I walked to the door, I heard Sophia's shrill voice. This isn't over. We'll contest it. I paused, my hand on the doorknob, and looked back at my family. These strangers who shared my blood, but had never shared my heart. Grandma Rose always said the true value of something isn't in its price tag, but in how much you're willing to invest in understanding it. I met each of their eyes. You never took the time to understand her. Or me. The door clicked shut behind me, leaving them with nothing but the echo of their own greed. Walking down the street, I pulled out my phone and opened the last text I'd received from Grandma Rose, just days before she passed. Remember, my dear, the best revenge isn't in proving them wrong. It's in living so well that they realize, too late, what they lost. I smiled through my tears. Tomorrow would bring challenges. Learning to run an empire, facing legal battles from my family, stepping into Grandma Rose's formidable shoes. But for now, I just wanted to go to the shop, sit in her old chair, and remember the woman who taught me that the greatest inheritances aren't counted in dollars, but in lessons learned and love given. The antique shop bell chimed as I opened the door, its familiar ring welcoming me home. The morning after the will reading, I arrived at Mr. Harrison's office exactly at 9 a.m. The gravity of yesterday's revelation still hadn't fully sunk in. $4.8 billion. The number seemed almost abstract, impossible to comprehend. "Good morning, Miss Bennet." Mr. Harrison greeted me, gesturing to a leather chair. "I hope you're ready. There's quite a lot to discuss." He placed a thick folder on his desk, emblazoned with the Bennett Group logo, something I'd never even seen before. "Your grandmother," he began, "was much more than an antique dealer. The shop was just a front for a vast network of international art acquisition, authentication, and trading operations." He opened the folder, revealing complex organizational charts and financial statements. Bennett Group operates in 43 countries, with offices in London, Dubai, Hong Kong, and New York. You're now the owner of one of the largest private art and antiquities conglomerates in the world. My head spun. But how did no one know about this? Mr. Harrison smiled. "Your grandmother was a master of discretion. She operated through dozens of shell companies and subsidiaries. The public face was always just the charming old lady with her antique shop." He pulled out another document. "She left this for you. A letter explaining everything." With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. "My dearest Olivia, if you're reading this, you've just discovered that your eccentric grandmother wasn't quite what she seemed. Don't be angry that I kept this from you. Secrecy was necessary, not just from the family, but from the world. The Bennett Group isn't just about buying and selling antiques. We protect history, preserve culture, and sometimes, when necessary, rescue priceless artifacts from those who would destroy or exploit them. Remember that Ming vase you helped me authenticate last summer? It wasn't just a simple verification job. We were preventing an international smuggling ring from flooding the market with counterfeits. I've watched you grow, learn, and develop the perfect combination of skills needed for this work. Your eye for detail, your instinct for authenticity, and most importantly, your understanding that value isn't just about money. You're ready for this, even if you don't feel like you are. Love, Grandma Rose. P.S. Check the hidden compartment in my desk at the shop. The red ledger will explain everything else." I looked up at Mr. Harrison. "Did you know? All this time?" He nodded. "I've been your grandmother's lawyer for 30 years. I helped her build this empire in secret. And now, I'm here to help you." Just then, his office phone buzzed. "Sir, the Bennett family is here. All of them. They're demanding to speak with you." Mr. Harrison raised an eyebrow at me. "Your call, Miss Bennet. You're the boss now." I took a deep breath. "Let them wait. We have work to do." The next few hours were a crash course in my new reality. The Bennett Group wasn't just wealthy, it was powerful. We owned auction houses, authentication laboratories, restoration facilities, and even a state-of-the-art security company specializing in museum protection. Your grandmother left detailed instructions for the transition," Mr. Harrison explained. "She's been preparing for this for years. All key executives have been briefed. They're expecting you." My phone hadn't stopped buzzing all morning. Texts and calls from family members poured in. "Mom, Olivia, please be reasonable. We need to discuss this as a family. Sophia, you have no idea how to run a business. You'll destroy everything. Uncle Thomas, this is elder abuse." Rose wasn't in her right mind. I silenced my phone and focused on the documents in front of me. That's when I noticed something interesting in the financial statements. "Mr. Harrison, these numbers. Sophia's company, Bennett Tech Solutions. We own 60% of it." He smiled. "Your grandmother was quite strategic. She's been quietly acquiring controlling interests in all your cousin's businesses over the past decade. They just never knew who the real investor was." I sat back, stunned. So you now control not just the Bennett Group, but also majority stakes in Bennett Tech Solutions, Marcus's investment firm, and your Uncle Thomas's real estate empire. The irony was almost too perfect. All those years they'd looked down on me for working in that dusty old shop. They'd actually been working for Grandma Rose, and now for me. A knock at the door interrupted us. Mr. Harrison's assistant looked apologetic. "I'm sorry, but they're getting quite insistent. Mr. Thomas Bennett is threatening to call the police." I stood up. It's time to face them. Walking into the waiting room felt like entering a lion's den. My entire family sat there, faces twisted with rage and desperation. Finally, Uncle Thomas boomed. "This farce has gone on long enough." Sophia jumped up. "We've already called our lawyers. We're contesting the will on grounds of mental incompetency." I held up my hand for silence. The gesture, so reminiscent of Grandma Rose, actually made them pause. "Before you waste money on lawyers, there are some things you should know." I turned to Sophia. "Bennett Tech Solutions received $100 million in investment capital last year through Phoenix Ventures. Did you never wonder who was behind that fund?" Sophia's face went pale. "And Marcus, that mysterious angel investor who saved your firm during the market crash. That was Grandma Rose." Marcus sank into his chair. "Uncle Thomas, remember when you almost lost everything in 2020? Who do you think bought up your debt and negotiated with the banks?" The color drained from his face as realization dawned. Grandma Rose didn't just leave me an antique shop. She left me controlling interest in everything, including your companies. The silence was deafening. My mother stepped forward, her voice honey-sweet. "Darling, this is exactly why we need to handle this as a family. You need our help to manage all this." I met her eyes. "Like you helped me at the funeral? Or when you threw me out of Grandma's house?" "We were emotional," she pleaded. "You have to understand." "I understand perfectly. You thought I was worthless because I didn't fit your definition of success. Now that I control the purse strings, suddenly I'm family again?" I picked up my bag and headed for the door. "Mr. Harrison will be in touch with your respective boards of directors. I suggest you all focus on running your companies well. I'd hate to have to make any management changes." "You can't do this," Sophia shrieked. "You don't know the first thing about business." I paused at the door. "No, I helped build $1 billion empire right under your noses, and none of you even noticed. Imagine what I can do now that I don't have to hide." The door closed on their stunned faces. Outside, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Opening it revealed a photo. Grandma Rose standing in front of an impressive building in London. Another text followed. Welcome to Bennett Group HQ, Miss Bennett. The executive team is ready for you whenever you'd like to begin. I smiled, remembering all those lessons in the shop, all those hours learning about authenticity and value. Grandma Rose hadn't just been teaching me about antiques. She'd been preparing me for this moment. Time to show the world what the real Olivia Bennett could do. The first 6 months leading the Bennett Group taught me more than a decade of working in the antique shop. Though I now understood that every lesson Grandma Rose had given me was preparation for this moment. My first day at the London headquarters was surreal. The quaint antique dealer had run her empire from a stunning Victorian building in Mayfair, its austere exterior hiding ultra-modern offices within. Julia Chen, Grandma's executive assistant for 20 years, met me at the door. Miss Bennett, she smiled warmly. Rose told us you'd be ready. The executive team gathered in the boardroom, seasoned professionals who'd helped build this empire from the shadows. They'd all been briefed years ago about the succession plan. While my family saw me as the shop girl, these people had been prepared to accept me as their new leader. Your grandmother left detailed briefings about every aspect of the operation, Julia explained, handling me a sleek tablet, including contingency plans for your family's likely reactions. I scrolled through the files, amazed at Grandma Rose's foresight. She'd anticipated everything, from Sophia's legal challenges to Uncle Thomas's attempts to undermine my authority. The first test came sooner than expected. Sophia, true to form, tried to orchestrate a hostile takeover of Bennett Tech Solutions, attempting to dilute the company's stock to reduce my controlling interest. I let her make her moves. Then in one board meeting, I revealed that Bennett Group owned not just 60% of her company's shares, but also held the patents to their core technology. Patents Grandma Rose had quietly acquired years ago. You see, Sophia, I said calmly as she sat there, face ashen. While you were mocking me for working in a dusty old shop, I was learning how to authenticate not just antiques, but the true value of everything, including intellectual property. Marcus tried a different approach. He showed up at my office one morning, all smiles and reconciliation. Come on, Olivia, he cajoled. We're family. We should be working together. I could help you manage all this. It's what I went to Harvard for, remember? I pulled out his firm's latest financial reports. You mean like how you managed to lose $40 million in bad investments last quarter? The only reason your firm survived was Grandma Rose's safety nets. He left without another word. The real changes began 3 months in. I started consolidating the Bennett Group's scattered operations, bringing our various enterprises under a more cohesive structure. The antique shop remained our public face, but I expanded our authentication services, leveraging our expertise and technology. We launched a new division specializing in digital authentication of art and antiquities using blockchain technology, something Grandma Rose had been quietly developing before she passed. The market response was overwhelming. One morning, Julia brought me the Financial Times. There on the front page, Bennett Group emerges from shadows, the secret giant of the art world. The article revealed the true scope of our operations to the public for the first time. By evening, our stock had jumped 30%. My phone exploded with messages from family members who'd previously sworn never to speak to me again. Mother, darling, we're so proud of you. When can we discuss my role in the company? Uncle Thomas, blood is thicker than water, Olivia. Let's talk about synergies between our businesses. I archived their messages without replying. Instead, I focused on building something new, The Bennett Authentication Institute opened its doors 6 months after I took over, a state-of-the-art facility combining traditional expertise with cutting-edge technology. We offered training programs for aspiring authenticators, scholarships for art history students, and resources for museums and collectors. The real satisfaction came from the small victories, like when Sophia's company lost a major contract because their patents were suddenly under review by Bennett Group's legal team, or when Marcus's firm had to publicly disclose that their major investor, us, was pulling out, triggering a stock price plunge. I didn't do it out of spite. Every move was strategically sound, designed to strengthen the Bennett Group's position. That it happened to humble my arrogant family was just a satisfying bonus. 1 year to the day after Grandma Rose's funeral, I stood in the antique shop, now restored to its former glory. While we'd expanded globally, I kept this place exactly as it had been, the heart of our empire, hiding in plain sight. The bell chimed as the door opened. My mother walked in, looking older and tired. "The prodigal mother returns," I said, not looking up from the ledger I was reviewing. "Olivia, please." Her voice cracked. "We were wrong. I was wrong. I know an apology isn't enough, but—" "You're right," I cut her off. "It isn't." Finally, I looked at her. "Do you know what Grandma Rose told me the day before she died?" She said, "Olivia, success isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right." I closed the ledger. "I'm not angry anymore, Mom. I'm just done. You all showed me exactly who you were at the funeral. Money didn't change you. It revealed you." "We can change," she pleaded. "Give us a chance." I smiled, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. "You don't need my money to change. If you really want to prove you've learned something, go build something of your own." That's what I did. After she left, I went up to Grandma's old office, my office now. The hidden compartment in her desk still held secrets she'd wanted me to find. Letters, photographs, journals documenting the real history of the Bennett Group. One photo caught my eye. Grandma Rose as a young woman, standing in front of the shop on opening day. She looked so much like me. That same determined glint in her eye. My phone buzzed. Julia with updates about our latest acquisition. Bennett Group was now worth close to $7 billion. The shop's bell chimed again downstairs, probably another customer looking for hidden treasures. I smiled, remembering how it all started. The family that threw me out had thought the antique shop was nothing. They never understood that real value isn't always visible on the surface. Sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones others overlook. Grandma Rose had built an empire by understanding that. Now it was my turn to carry that legacy forward, on my own terms. The shop's bell chimed again. Time to get back to work. After all, there were still so many treasures waiting to be discovered, so many stories waiting to be told. And this time, I was writing my own story. The next week, I received an invitation to speak at Harvard Business School. The topic? Hidden Empires, the art of building success in plain sight. I thought about declining, but then I remembered Grandma Rose's words. Sometimes the best revenge is showing them exactly what they missed. I accepted the invitation. Sophia and Marcus would be in the audience. Harvard alums, of course. They'd have to sit there and listen as their failure of a cousin explained how she'd been running circles around them for years. But more importantly, I'd tell the story of a woman who built an empire not through ruthless competition or fancy degrees, but through understanding true value in art, in business, and in people. The antique shop's bell chimed one last time that evening. I looked up to see Julia standing there with a familiar twinkle in her eye. "Miss Bennet, the London office just called. They found something interesting in the archives. Something your grandmother left for when you're ready." I smiled. Even now, Grandma Rose was still teaching me. "Well then," I said, reaching for my coat, "let's go see what other treasures she left for us to discover." After all, that's what the Bennett Group was really about. Finding value in the overlooked, beauty in the forgotten, and strength in being underestimated. Just like Grandma Rose had taught me.
I never thought I'd own a castle, but life has a way of surprising you, especially when your family pushes you too far. The day my sister Amanda banned me from her wedding, I was standing in the bridal boutique, holding the receipt for her custom-designed Vera wine dress, $15,000. Just another drop in the ocean of expenses I'd covered to give her the fairy tale wedding she dreamed of since childhood. "Sophie, you can't possibly wear that to my wedding," Amanda said, her perfectly manicured fingers gesturing dismissively at my business suit. "And that haircut. God, when are you going to start dressing like a normal person?" I touched my short pixie cut self-consciously. At 32, I'd long since given up trying to match my sister's definition of normal. While she pursued a career in social media influencing, I'd built a successful investment firm. My clothes were expensive but practical. My haircut was low maintenance but stylish. Not that Amanda would ever notice. "The suit is Armani," I said quietly, "and I thought we agreed I'd wear navy to compliment the bridesmaids." "That's not the point." Amanda's voice rose, drawing attention from other customers. "You're my sister, but you're embarrassing. Bradley's family is old money. They have expectations." His mother already commented on how different you seem. Bradley Thompson Ayalai. My sister's fiancé came from one of those families where everyone had Roman numerals after their names in summer homes in the Hamptons. Old money, indeed, though not as much as they pretended to have anymore. Different? I kept my voice level, years of boardroom negotiations serving me well. "I'm paying for your entire wedding, Amanda. $85,000 so far, including the deposit on Riverbrook Castle." Ah, Riverbrook Castle. The exclusive venue an hour outside the city, a restored 19th century estate that hosted only 12 weddings per year. The waiting list was 3 years long, but I pulled strings, called in favors, and secured it for Amanda's perfect day. The deposit alone was $20,000. "That's what family does." Amanda waved off my comment. "Mom and Dad can't afford it, and I'm their precious baby. You're just doing your duty as the older sister." Our parents. That was another sore spot. Dad's small accounting firm had struggled after the recession, and Mom's interior design business barely broke even. They'd remortgaged their house 3 times to maintain appearances, to give Amanda the lifestyle she demanded. Meanwhile, I'd been quietly paying their bills for years, a fact they conveniently forgot whenever Amanda needed something. Besides, Amanda continued, examining her reflection in the boutique's triple mirrors, "It's not like you have anything else to spend your money on. No husband, no kids, just work, work, work." The boutique owner, Mrs. Patterson, shot me a sympathetic look. She'd witnessed similar scenes over the past 6 months of wedding preparations. "The alterations are perfect," I said, changing the subject. "The dress looks beautiful on you." "Of course it does," Amanda preened. "Bradley's mother says I look just like Grace Kelly. She's going to introduce me to all the right people after the wedding. I'll be managing their family's charitable foundation." I bit back a comment about the Thompson Family Foundation's questionable accounting practices. My firm had analyzed their books during a potential partnership deal last year. The numbers hadn't added up, but Amanda didn't need to know that. Not yet. "Now about the wedding." Amanda's tone turned serious. "I've been thinking, maybe it's better if you don't come." The boutique went silent. Mrs. Patterson dropped a pincushion. "What?" I managed to keep my voice steady, though my hands clenched into fists. "It's just, you don't fit, Sophie. You'll stand out in all the photos with your weird hair and man suits." Bradley's mother suggested having just family at the ceremony, and well, Amanda smoothed her dress, avoiding my eyes. "You're not really the kind of family we want to showcase." "I pay for everything," I said slowly. "The dress, the flowers, the castle, the catering, everything. And we're grateful." Amanda's voice took on the wheedling tone she used since childhood to get her way. But think about my future, Sophie. These people are going to be my family. I need to fit in. You can still send a gift, of course. Mrs. Patterson muttered something under her breath that sounded suspiciously like ungrateful brat. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The designer dress, the diamond earrings I bought her for Christmas, the entitled tilt of her chin. 28 years old and still playing princess while others paid the bills. Fine, I said quietly. Really? Amanda's face lit up. Oh, I knew you'd understand. You always take care of everything. Just send the final payments to the vendors. And no, I cut her off. I mean, fine, I won't come to the wedding. But I'm not paying for it either. Amanda's face went pale beneath her expensive foundation. What? You can't have it both ways, Amanda. Either I'm family or I'm not. If I'm not family enough to attend, I'm not family enough to pay. But the castle, the catering, everything's booked. Better start calling Bradley's mother, I said, gathering my bag. I'm sure the Thompson Family Foundation can cover it. After all, they're your real family now. You can't do this. Amanda's voice rose to a shriek. Daddy. Tell her she can't do this. I turned to see our parents rushing into the boutique. They must have been waiting outside. Of course they were. Sophie, be reasonable. Dad started, using his accountant voice. Your sister didn't mean. Yes, she did. I cut him off. And you've enabled it for years. Well, it stops now. But we can't afford. Mom wrung her hands. Designer bracelets jangling. More gifts from me. Not my problem anymore. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Mom. The mortgage payment you asked me to cover next week. Better start looking for alternatives. I walked out of the boutique to the sound of Amanda's wails and my parents' protests. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. In my car, I pulled out my phone and made 2 calls. The first was to my assistant. Jessica, remember that property acquisition we discussed? The one with the castle? Make it happen. Whatever it takes. The second call was to my bank, canceling all pending payments to wedding vendors. Then I drove to my office in the city, where the real work would begin. Amanda thought she could humiliate me and still benefit from my success. She was about to learn a very expensive lesson about burning bridges. By evening, things were in motion. My investment firm, Stone Financial Partners, had begun the process of acquiring Riverbrook Castle and its surrounding estate. The current owners, an elderly couple looking to retire, had been considering selling for months. My offer, significantly above market value, sealed the deal. As I sat in my corner office overlooking the city, I thought about Amanda's words. No husband, no kids, just work. She'd meant it as an insult, but my work had built something remarkable. Stone Financial Partners managed billions in assets, though I kept that fact quiet. Let people underestimate me. It made moments like this so much sweeter. My phone buzzed. Jessica's text. Contract signed. You own a castle. I smiled, imagining Amanda's face when she learned who her venue's new owner was. But that would come tomorrow. Tonight, I had other calls to make. First, the wedding planner, an elegant woman named Victoria, who confided in me about Amanda's increasingly bridezilla-like behavior. Victoria? It's Sophie Stone. There are going to be some changes to my sister's wedding plans. Then the caterers, the florist, the musicians. One by one, I explained the situation. Most had dealt with Amanda's demands and tantrums. All were happy to keep their deposits and book new clients instead. Finally, close to midnight, I called the castle's events manager, Michael. Miss Stone, I just heard about the ownership change. Congratulations. Thank you, Michael. About tomorrow's meeting with my sister. We planned it perfectly. Amanda would arrive expecting to finalize wedding details with the venue's mysterious new owner. Instead, she'd find me behind the antique desk in the castle's grand office. As I drove home that night, past the gleaming city towers I'd helped finance, I thought about family, about loyalty, about consequences. Tomorrow would change everything. And for once, I wouldn't be the one picking up the pieces of Amanda's shattered expectations. The morning after my confrontation with Amanda at Riverbrook Castle started differently than I expected. Not with angry calls from my family, but with a series of interesting emails. First was a message from Bradley's mother, Margaret Thompson. Miss Stone, I understand you're the new owner of Riverbrook. We should discuss the Thompson family's long-standing relationship with the venue. I smiled, remembering my conversation with Amanda yesterday in the castle's office. She'd arrived expecting to finalize her wedding details, only to find me behind the mahogany desk. Her face had cycled through confusion, shock, and finally, rage. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "Meeting with the bride about her venue reservation," I'd replied calmly. "Please have a seat." But they said the new owner wanted to meet. Yes, and here I am. The realization had hit her like a physical blow. You bought the castle. Riverbrook Estate, including the castle, grounds, and all business operations, I confirmed, signed the papers yesterday. This is insane. Amanda had paced the office, her designer heels clicking on the hardwood. "You can't do this. We have a contract." Had a contract, I corrected, with the previous owners. All agreements are under review by the new management. Standard business practice. I'm your sister. Am I? Because yesterday I wasn't family enough to attend your wedding. Now, staring at Margaret Thompson's email, I thought about what had happened next. Amanda's threats, her tears, her attempts at manipulation. All her usual tactics, useless against the cold reality of business contracts and property rights. The second email was from Bradley himself. "Sophie, need to meet urgently. Family financial matter. Please keep confidential." Interesting, very interesting. The third email made me sit up straight. It was from Harrison Pierce, CEO of Pierce Global Investments and Bradley's godfather. "Ms. Stone, impressed by your recent acquisition. Lunch this week. Have a proposition to discuss." I leaned back in my office chair, pieces clicking into place. The Thompson family's strained finances, Bradley's urgent message, Harrison Pierce's sudden interest. My phone buzzed. Mom calling. Again. I'd ignored 14 calls since yesterday's confrontation. This time I answered. "How could you do this to your sister?" she demanded without preamble. "Good morning to you too, Ma. Don't be smart with me. Amanda's devastated. She had to tell Bradley's mother the wedding venue isn't due party. Do you know how humiliating that was?" I thought about all the times Amanda had humiliated me publicly. Yes, I imagine it was very uncomfortable. "You have to fix this. Give her back the venue. Like you gave back the house I helped you keep, or the car payments I covered, or the credit card bills." Silence. Then softer. "We're family, Sophie. Funny how that only matters when you need something from me." I ended the call and pulled up the Thompson family's financial records. My firm had compiled them during due diligence last year. Old money, yes, but mostly gone now. Bad investments, lavish spending, and a generation of heirs better at spending wealth than maintaining it. A knock at my door, Jessica with my morning coffee. "Bradley Thompson is in the lobby," she said. "No appointment. Give me 10 minutes, then send him up." I used the time to make 2 quick calls. First to my private investigator. "Send me everything you have on Harrison Pierce's recent investments." Then to Michael at Riverbrook. "Hold all wedding bookings for the next 6 months. Something's coming." Bradley looked different in my office than he had at family dinners. Less polished. Worried. His custom suit couldn't hide the shadows under his eyes. "Sophie, thank you for seeing me," he began, declining my offer of coffee. "About Amanda. If this is about the wedding venue, I have nothing to add to yesterday's conversation." "It's not." "Well, not directly." He ran a hand through his carefully styled hair. "I need your help. My family, we're not as financially secure as we appear. I'm aware." He blinked. "You are." "My firm does thorough research before considering partnerships, Bradley. Last year's review of the Thompson Foundation was enlightening." "Then you know we're in trouble. Real trouble. Uncle Harrison has been keeping us afloat, but Harrison Pierce isn't your uncle. Family friend. Godfather. He's like an uncle." Bradley leaned forward. "He's been watching you, your firm. This castle purchase, it got his attention." "I'm sure it did." I kept my voice neutral. "What exactly do you want, Bradley?" "A partnership. Your firm's resources, our family's connections. Uncle Harrison would back it. We could." "Stop." I held up a hand. "Let me be clear. You're here because you need money. Because your family's wealth is mostly smoke and mirrors now. Because Harrison Pierce sees an opportunity. Bradley's face flushed. It's not like that. Your foundation's books are a mess. Your family's real estate is mortgaged to the hilt. And now your fiancé's sister, the one you all look down on, owns the castle you can't afford to rent for your wedding. Sophie, please. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to leave my office. You're going to tell Harrison Pierce that I'm not interested in his proposition. And you're going to explain to Amanda that actions have consequences. Or I start asking public questions about the Thompson Foundation's creative accounting. He left without another word. I gave him 10 minutes, then made another call. Harrison, Sophie Stone. About lunch. I have a counter proposition. The next few weeks were a study in chaos and consequences. Amanda alternated between rage and begging. My parents discovered that their financial safety net had vanished. The Thompson family's carefully maintained facade began to crack. And me? I built something new at Riverbrook. Not just a wedding venue, but a symbol. A reminder that sometimes the quiet ones, the different ones, the ones who don't fit in, were the ones you should watch out for. Some nights, standing in the castle's grand hall, I thought about family, about the price of loyalty and the cost of betrayal, about little girls who dream of fairy tale weddings and women who build their own castles. Amanda eventually had her wedding, a much smaller affair at a local hotel. I didn't attend, but I sent a gift, a framed photo of Riverbrook Castle with a note. Sometimes happily ever after looks different than we expect. The Thompson family's financial troubles became public shortly after, thanks to some anonymous tips to regulatory authorities. Harrison Pierce's proposition, it turned out I didn't need his connections as much as he needed mine. Today, Riverbrook hosts selected events, not just weddings, but charity galas, corporate retreats, and educational programs. We have a scholarship foundation that helps different young women build their own success stories. Amanda still doesn't speak to me. Last I heard, she and Bradley moved to a smaller city where the Thompson name carries less weight. Mom and Dad adjusted to their more modest lifestyle, though they never quite understood how they lost their golden child's fairy tale. As for me, I kept the castle. Some days, walking its halls, I think about that moment in the bridal boutique. You don't fit, Amanda had said. She was right. I didn't fit into her story. I was writing my own. The castle's bell tower chimes, reminding me of another meeting, another decision to make. Through my office window, I can see a young woman arriving for a venue tour. Her hair is cut short like mine, her suit practical but elegant. In her eyes, I see that same quiet determination I once had. Miss Stone. Jessica appears at my door. Your next appointment is here. I smile, straightening my jacket. Time to help another different girl find her own kind of happily ever after. After all, every good story needs a sequel.
The day I lost my job at Morris and Associates, my sister Amanda called to mock me. It wasn't surprising. She'd spent the last 15 years of our lives measuring her success against what she saw as my failures. Seriously, Thomas? Fired again? Her voice dripped with familiar contempt. What is this? The third time in 2 years. I held my phone away from my ear, staring out the window of my penthouse office in downtown Manhattan. 48 floors up, the city sprawled beneath me like a glittering chessboard. Actually, Amanda, I resigned. She laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. Right, because people totally resign from 6-figure consulting jobs in this economy. God, you're pathetic. You can't even admit when you failed. If only she knew. The job at Morris and Associates had been a convenient cover, nothing more. A way to keep my family thinking I was just another corporate drone while I built something far bigger in the shadows. Whatever helps you sleep at night, I replied mildly, watching my reflection in the tinted glass. At 34, I looked younger than my years in my tailored charcoal suit. No one would guess I controlled a multi-billion-dollar investment empire. That was exactly how I wanted it. Well, don't expect any sympathy at my engagement party next month, Amanda continued. I won't have you embarrassing me in front of Jonathan's family. They're actually successful, unlike some people. Ah, yes, Jonathan Williams, my sister's fiancé and rising star at Peterson Global Investments. The irony almost made me laugh. I wouldn't dream of embarrassing you, I said softly. Good, and dress properly for once. No more of your discount store suits. Jonathan's father is bringing the CEO of Peterson Global. Try not to look like the family failure. I glanced down at my Tom Ford suit that cost more than Amanda's monthly salary. I'll do my best. After she hung up, I sat in silence for a long moment, thinking about the path that had led me here. 15 years of carefully crafted misdirection. Letting my family believe I was struggling while I built an empire in secret. It started in college, when I developed an algorithm for predicting market trends. While Amanda was partying her way through business school, I was quietly raising capital, making connections, building something extraordinary. By 25, I had my first billion. By 30, I had acquired Peterson Global Investments through a series of shell companies and holding firms. Not even the board knew who really owned the company. They just knew their mysterious chairman by his results. I kept working regular jobs as cover, letting my family think I was barely getting by. It was easier that way. No expectations, no demands. No one trying to leverage connections or ask for favors. But now, watching the sun set over Manhattan from my private office, I wondered if it was time for the truth to come out. Amanda's engagement party would be the perfect stage. Jonathan Williams, her beloved fiancé, reported directly to me, though he'd never met the reclusive Chairman Peterson in person. My phone buzzed. Speaking of Jonathan, "Sir," he said nervously when I answered, "I just found out. My fiancée. She's your sister?" "Indeed she is, Jonathan." I allowed myself a small smile. "Quite a coincidence, isn't it?" "I had no idea, sir. She talks about you, but she doesn't seem to know." "That's because she doesn't know. None of my family does. And I prefer to keep it that way, at least until the engagement party." "Of course, sir. But what should I do when I see you there?" I thought about Amanda's years of mockery, her constant need to prove her superiority. Just act naturally, Jonathan. I'm sure it will be quite an interesting evening. After hanging up, I walked to the windows again. Below, the city lights were blinking to life one by one, like the pieces of an elaborate game moving into position. In the coming weeks, I watched from afar as Amanda planned her elaborate engagement party. Our parents called regularly to update me on the details, their voices tight with familiar disappointment when they asked about my job situation. "You know, your sister's fiancé is very successful," Mom said during one call. "Maybe he could help you find something stable." I get back a laugh. If they only knew that Jonathan's continued employment depended entirely on my goodwill. "I'll keep that in mind," I said neutrally. The morning of the engagement party dawned clear and crisp. I stood in my closet, considering my options before selecting a bespoke Brioni suit in midnight blue. Might as well look the part when the truth came out. As I adjusted my Patek Philippe watch, worth more than Amanda's car, I thought about how this evening would change everything. Part of me would miss the simplicity of anonymity. But watching my sister's carefully constructed illusions shatter would be worth it. I arrived at the venue, an exclusive Manhattan restaurant, exactly on time. Amanda was holding court near the entrance, resplendent in a designer dress, Jonathan nervously at her side. "Oh, look who actually showed up," she announced as I approached. "And wearing something from Men's Warehouse. How appropriate." Several of her friends tittered. Jonathan looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. "Congratulations, Amanda," I said calmly. "Jonathan?" I nodded to my employee, who could barely meet my eyes. Still unemployed. She pressed, clearly eager to show off my failures to her new social circle. I heard Morris and associates finally got tired of carrying dead weight. I smiled, noting the growing crowd of listeners. Among them, I spotted several Peterson global executives who knew exactly who I was, their faces masks of fascination and horror as they watched the scene unfold. Something like that, I agreed mildly. Poor Thomas can't even keep a job, Amanda declared to her audience with a theatrical sigh. Thank God Jonathan has actual business sense. Not everyone can be a success like him. That's when it happened. One of the Peterson Global board members approached, eager to greet what he thought was his chairman. Jonathan saw him coming and panic flashed across his face. "Chairman Peterson," he blurted out. "I had no idea you were." The champagne glass slipped from Amanda's hand, shattering on the marble floor. The room fell silent. I smiled. The game was about to begin. The silence that followed felt eternal. I could almost hear the gears turning in Amanda's head as she tried to process what she just heard. Around us, the party guests had frozen in place, champagne glasses suspended mid-sip, conversations dying mid-word. "Sheesh, Chairman," Amanda stammered, her perfectly made-up face draining of color. "What is he talking about, Jonathan?" Jonathan looked like a man caught between two freight trains. His eyes darted between me and his fiancée, sweat beading on his forehead. "Amanda, I can explain." "Actually," I said quietly, "I think I should do the explaining." I turned to address the room, noting the mix of shocked faces and knowing smiles from my executives. For those who don't know me, I'm Thomas Peterson, chairman and majority owner of Peterson Global Investments. The whispers started immediately. I saw my parents in the corner, my father's mouth hanging open, my mother gripping his arms so tightly her knuckles were white. "That's impossible," Amanda snapped, but her voice trembled. "You're unemployed. You just got fired from Morris and Associates." "Resigned?" "Actually," I corrected her. "It was one of several cover jobs I've held over the years. Keeps things interesting." I smiled at Jonathan. "You can relax now, by the way. I don't plan to fire you just because you're marrying my sister." Jonathan sagged with visible relief. Amanda's head whipped between us, her designer earrings swinging wildly. "Fire him? You can't fire him. You're lying. This is just another one of your pathetic attempts to—" "Ms. Peterson," a distinguished older man stepped forward. "Richard Blackwood, head of our board of directors. I can assure you your brother is telling the truth. He's been our chairman for the past 5 years, though this is the first time many of us have met him in person." I watched the realization settle over my sister's face like an approaching storm. 15 years of smugness, of mockery, of carefully cultivated superiority, all crumbling in an instant. But, she looked at our parents. "Did you know about this?" Mom stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Thomas, is this true? All this time? Perhaps we should continue this discussion somewhere more private," I suggested, gesturing toward a side room. "Jonathan, why don't you handle the guests for a moment?" My shell-shocked family followed me into an elegantly appointed private dining room. As soon as the door closed, the questions erupted. "How is this possible? Why didn't you tell us? Peterson Global, but that's worth billions." I sat down calmly, adjusting my cuffs. "It's actually quite a simple story. Remember that algorithm I developed in college? The one you said was a waste of time, Amanda?" She flinched. I continued. "It worked. better than anyone could have imagined. I used it to start trading, built up capital, made some key investments. By 25, I had my first billion. Billion? My father choked. Currently, my personal net worth is just over 12 billion. I said quietly. Peterson Global manages assets of approximately 180 billion. My mother sank into a chair. Amanda remained standing, her engagement ring glinting as her hands twisted together. But why the fake jobs? Why let us think you were struggling? I leaned back, studying my sister. Do you remember what you said when I tried to show you my early market predictions? Called it cute, that I thought I could compete with real business people. She flushed. That was years ago. 15 years, to be exact. The same day, I decided to build everything in secret. No pressure, no expectations. No family members asking for favors or trying to leverage connections. Just pure merit. We wouldn't have. My father started. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Like you didn't use Amanda's connections to try to get contracts for your consulting firm. Like Mom didn't ask Amanda to help cousin Peter get an interview at her company. They had the grace to look embarrassed. But all those times we tried to help you, my mother said softly. The job referrals, the career advice, the constant criticism, I added. The comparisons to Amanda's success, the jokes at family gatherings. I kept my voice level, but years of suppressed feelings were rising to the surface. Amanda sank into a chair, her perfect posture crumbling. Oh God, she whispered. All those things I said to you, about being a failure, about not measuring up. While I was signing your fiancé's paychecks, I finished for her. Ironic, isn't it? A knock at the door interrupted us. Jonathan poked his head in, looking uncertain. Sir, I mean Thomas. Some of the board members are asking. Of course, I stood up. We should rejoin the party. I believe there's an engagement to celebrate. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Amanda? That discount store suit you mocked earlier? It's brownie. Costs more than your car. The rest of the evening was a blur of revelations and reactions. I watched as my sister struggled to adjust her worldview, as my parents grappled with their new reality. The Peterson Global executives, who'd long known me only as a voice on the phone or a signature on documents, now clustered around, eager to finally meet their mysterious chairman. Later, as the party was winding down, Amanda approached me at the bar. Her makeup was slightly smeared, her confident facade cracked. Why now? She asked quietly. Why reveal everything at my engagement party? I sipped my scotch, considering, because it was time, because I'm tired of living a double life, and because I looked at her directly. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come at our moments of greatest pride. She flinched, but nodded slowly. I deserve that. All these years, I've been so superior, condescending, cruel. Yes, she whispered. I'm sorry, Thomas. I know it doesn't make up for anything, but I'm truly sorry. I studied my sister, seeing for the first time in years the girl who used to be my best friend before success and rivalry drove us apart. The question is, Amanda, what happens now? She looked at me uncertainly. What do you mean? Now that the truth is out, now that you know your failure brother is actually one of the most powerful men in global finance, now that your entire perception of our relationship has been turned upside down, what happens next? Her answer would determine a lot about our future. I waited, watching emotions play across her face as she grappled with 15 years of shattered assumptions and the dawning reality of our new dynamic. The world I'd built in secret was now fully exposed. The carefully maintained walls between my two lives had crumbled. As I waited for my sister's response, I wondered if revealing the truth would heal our family's wounds or only deepen them. Either way, there was no going back now. The weeks following the engagement party were a study in chaos theory. How one revelation could spiral out into countless unforeseen consequences. The story of the mysterious Chairman Peterson revealing himself at his sister's engagement party leaked to the financial press within days. Our family's photo appeared in the Wall Street Journal. My sister's shocked face immortalized for the business world to see. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from family members who'd suddenly remembered how close we used to be. Distant cousins pitched business ideas. Old friends from high school resurfaced with investment opportunities. Even my third-grade teacher somehow got my number, wondering if I remembered her special influence on my success. But it was the changing dynamic with my immediate family that proved most fascinating. My father, ever the pragmatist, switched from disappointment to pride so quickly it gave me whiplash. "I always knew you had potential, son," he said over lunch at his favorite diner, the same one where he'd lectured me about financial responsibility just months earlier. It was just a matter of time. I stirred my coffee, remembering his very different words from Christmas. "Really?" "Because I distinctly remember you calling my career a testament to wasted education last December." He had the grace to look embarrassed. I was wrong, obviously very wrong. But you have to understand, seeing you bounce from job to job, never seeming to settle. Those jobs were covers to Dad, carefully chosen positions that wouldn't draw attention while I built something bigger. Every failure was calculated. "But why?" he asked, genuinely puzzled. "Why hide your success from us, from your family?" I looked at him steadily, because I wanted to succeed or fail on my own merits. No family connections, no expectations, no pressure, just me, my ideas, and the market. "And no trust in your family to handle the truth," he added quietly. "Can you blame me?" I gestured around the diner. "Look how everyone's acting now that they know. Even you, Dad. Would you be sitting here, proud of my choices, if I was still just a mid-level consultant getting fired every few years?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. My mother took a different approach. She showed up at my office, my real office, unannounced one afternoon, somehow talking her way past 3 layers of security. "This is where you've been all along?" she asked, taking in the panoramic view of Manhattan. "While we thought you were struggling." "Mom." "No, let me finish." She turned from the windows, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Do you know how many nights I lay awake worrying about you? Wondering if you'd ever find your path, if you'd ever be okay?" "I was more than okay," I said softly. "Yes, you were building an empire, in secret, while letting your mother think you were barely getting by." Her voice cracked. "Was it worth it? Was proving your point worth all the pain you caused?" That hit home. I'd spent so many years focused on maintaining my cover, on building something independently, that I'd never fully considered the emotional cost to others, especially to her. "I'm sorry," I said finally. "Not for building this my way, but for hurting you. That was never my intention." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I suppose I understand. After how we compared you to Amanda all those years, how we pushed and criticized, you wanted to prove yourself without our interference. Something like that. Well," she straightened her shoulders, "I hope you've proved whatever you needed to prove. because I expect to see my son at family dinners from now on. Your real self, not some carefully constructed facade. I smiled. Yes, Mom. But it was Amanda who surprised me most. A week after the party, she asked to meet at a small coffee shop. Not the kind of upscale venue she usually preferred. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she said, staring into her untouched latte, about how I treated you. About why I felt the need to constantly remind me of your success and my apparent failure. She winced. Yes, that. She took a deep breath. I think I was scared. That wasn't what I expected. Scared? Of what? Of not being enough. Of not living up to expectations. Mom and Dad always pushed us to be successful, and somewhere along the way, I decided that meant I had to be better than you. Had to prove myself by comparison. She laughed bitterly. And all this time, you were so far ahead of me, I couldn't even see it. Success isn't a competition, Amanda, says the secret billionaire, she shot back, but there was no malice in it. God, do you know how stupid I feel? All those times I mocked your career, your clothes, your life. You could have bought and sold my company 100 times over. That was never the point. Then what was the point, Thomas? Help me understand. I considered carefully. Freedom, I said finally. The freedom to succeed or fail on my own terms. To build something without family pressure or expectations. To know that every step forward was because of my own efforts, not our name or connections. And what about now? Now that everyone knows. Now, I smiled slightly. Now I do whatever I want, starting with fixing some things I've been neglecting. The next month proved transformative. I established a family foundation, not to hand out money, but to help fund entrepreneurial ventures within the family, properly vetted ones with solid business plans. Mom joined the board, proving surprisingly astute at evaluating proposals. Dad's consulting firm suddenly found itself with several major contracts, though I made sure he never knew they came through my connections. He didn't need to know. The quality of his work spoke for itself, once given the opportunity. As for Amanda and Jonathan, their wedding plans shifted from merely expensive to genuinely meaningful. Amanda insisted on scaling back the extravagance, focusing instead on creating something more personal. I've had enough of showing off, she told me. Time to focus on what really matters. Jonathan proved himself worthy of both his position and my sister, throwing himself into new projects with renewed confidence now that he no longer had to navigate the complex waters of our family secret. The press eventually moved on to newer stories. The flood of long-lost relatives slowed to a trickle. Life found a new normal, though not the one I'd maintained for so many years. 6 months after the engagement party, we had our first real family dinner in years. No pretense, no hidden agendas, no carefully maintained facades. Just family, finally seeing each other clearly. You know, Amanda said as we lingered over dessert, I never did thank you properly. For what? For teaching me the most expensive lesson of my life. She smiled. Never judge someone's worth by the suit they're wearing, even if it looks like it's from Men's Warehouse. I laughed, especially then. Later that night, standing in my office overlooking the city, I thought about the path that had led here. The years of secrecy, the careful misdirection, the calculated failures, all to build something truly my own. Had it been worth it? The lying, the hidden successes, the pain it caused my family? Looking at where we were now, Mom and Dad proud without being overbearing, Amanda humbled but happier. Our family bond stronger for having been tested. I thought maybe it had. Sometimes the hardest lessons come wrapped in the most expensive packages. Sometimes success isn't about proving your worth to others, but about proving it to yourself. And sometimes, just sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's growth. I picked up my phone and texted Amanda. Dinner next week? My treat. Her response came quickly. Only if you wear something from Men's Warehouse, for old time's sake. I smiled. Some things had changed completely, while others had just changed form. But this time, we were all in on the joke. And that made all the difference.
I had always known Marcus Walker would try to destroy me. What my stepbrother hadn't counted on was that I'd been preparing for this day for 2 years. Clear out your desk, little sister, Marcus smirked, leaning against my office doorframe. The board unanimously agreed. You're just not executive material. I kept my face neutral as I looked around the office I'd earned through 6 years of 60-hour weeks at Walker Technologies. The company my father and stepmother had built from nothing. The company I'd helped transform into a $200 million enterprise. And the company Marcus had inherited after our parents' fatal car accident last year. The board? I said quietly, meeting his eyes. You mean your college roommates you appointed after Dad died? They understand real business, Julia. Unlike you, Marcus straightened his Italian silk tie. A gift from my father last Christmas. Face it, you're too soft. Too focused on client relationships and employee satisfaction. This isn't a charity. I began packing my belongings while Marcus watched with undisguised glee. Photos of Dad and me at industry conferences. The awards our cybersecurity division had won under my leadership. The contract from our biggest client, Meridian Global, which I'd secured last month. Remember when you begged Dad to give you a chance? Marcus continued. Fresh out of MIT, thinking your fancy coding skills meant you understood business, he should have listened to Mom and sent you to business school instead. My stepmother, Caroline Walker, had never approved of my technical approach to leadership. Business is about appearances, Julia, she'd say, gesturing at my practical suits and sensible shoes. No one trusts a CEO who looks like their 8th department. The Meridian contract, I said, carefully wrapping my father's last birthday gift to me. A crystal paperweight engraved with his favorite quote, "Success leaves clues." They specifically requested me as their point of contact. Marcus waved dismissively. Already handled. I'm taking over their account personally. They understand that family businesses sometimes need to make adjustments. Family, right? Because nothing said family like firing your stepsister 2 days before the anniversary of her father's death. You have until 5 to clear out, Marcus said, checking his Rolex, another of Dad's gifts he claimed after the funeral. Security will escort you out. As he turned to leave, he paused. Oh, and Julia, don't bother updating your LinkedIn. I've already let our industry contacts know about your unfortunate departure. Can't have you embarrassing the Walker name. I waited until his footsteps faded before allowing myself a small smile. Opening my laptop, I typed a quick message to an email address I created 2 years ago. The day Marcus first tried to undermine me in a board meeting. Execute Protocol Alpha. Timestamp. Now. The response came instantly. Protocol Alpha initiated. Status. Active. Next, I pulled out my phone and made 3 calls. The first to my best friend and brilliant corporate lawyer, Sarah Mitchell. It's happening, I said when she answered. Finally, Sarah replied. Papers are ready. Meeting still on for 7. See you there. The second call went to Dr. James Morrison, my father's oldest friend and the only original board member Marcus hadn't managed to force out. Julia, James answered quietly. I just heard. I tried to stop it, but it's okay, I assured him. Is everything in place? Yes. Though I still don't understand why you wanted copies of all those old contracts. You will. Dinner tomorrow. Wouldn't miss it. The final call was to a secure number few people knew existed. Ms. Stone. System activation confirmed. All backups secured and isolated. Waiting for your command. Thank you, Michael. Maintain current status until further notice. By 4:30, my office was empty. I'd worked in this room since college, starting as an intern while Marcus was off finding himself in Europe. Dad had believed in earning your place, in understanding every aspect of the business from the ground up. Marcus had other ideas. At 4:45, security arrived, Ted from 8 and Alicia from the front desk, both looking uncomfortable. "Miss Stone," Ted began, "we're supposed to." "It's okay," I smiled, handing over my access card. "I know you're just doing your job." Alicia hugged me quickly. "We'll miss you." As they escorted me through the lobby, I caught glimpses of familiar faces. Developers I'd mentored, admins I'd supported through family emergencies, sales team members who'd flourished under my client-first approach. Marcus stood watching from the executive floor balcony, practically radiating satisfaction. In the parking lot, I placed my box of belongings in my Tesla Model S, a car I bought myself, unlike Marcus's company-funded Porsche. As I pulled away from Walker Technologies' gleaming headquarters, my phone buzzed with an incoming email. Subject: New leadership announcement. Walker Technologies from Marcus Walker, CEO to all staff. Team. Today marks an important transition in our company's evolution. Julia Stone is no longer with Walker Technologies. While we appreciate her past contributions, our vision requires stronger, more traditional leadership. I stopped reading and checked the time. 5:15. In precisely 45 minutes, every major client of Walker Technologies would receive a very different kind of email. One that Marcus definitely hadn't approved. At 6 o'clock, I walked into the private room at La Maison, an exclusive restaurant downtown. Sarah was already there, documents spread across the table. "Everything's filed," she said without preamble. "Stone Security Solutions is officially incorporated. Banking set up, licenses transferred, patents registered." "Marcus hasn't found the registration." Sarah smiled wickedly. "Filed in Delaware under a holding company. He won't find it until—" My phone exploded with notifications, email confirmations, calendar invites, and right on schedule. A flood of messages from Walker Technologies' biggest clients. Now, I finished pulling up the email that had just gone to every major player in our industry. "Dear valued partners, I'm excited to announce the launch of Stone Security Solutions, a new venture dedicated to revolutionary cybersecurity solutions. As the former head of security innovation at Walker Technologies and lead architect of the Guardian Protocol, I invite you to join us in redefining digital protection." Attached was a detailed prospectus, client testimonials gathered over months, and most importantly, irrefutable proof that I, not Walker Technologies, held the patents to our most crucial security systems. "How long until Marcus figures it out?" Sarah asked, pouring champagne. I glanced at my phone. 27 missed calls from Walker Technologies. He's probably reading the fine print right now. The fine print that showed I quietly registered personal patents for every major innovation I developed over the past 2 years. The fine print in client contracts that tied service guarantees to me personally, not the company. The fine print that Marcus, with his MBA and disdain for technical details, had never bothered to read. "You know he'll try to fight this," Sarah warned. "Let him." I sipped my champagne. "Everything's documented. Every patent application, every client meeting, every late-night coding session. And tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" "Tomorrow, our friends at Meridian Global announced they're moving their $50 million security contract to Stone Security Solutions. Effective immediately." Sarah's eyes widened. "That's why you insisted on those special terms in their contract last month." "Success leaves clues," I quoted, touching the crystal paperweight in my bag. "Dad taught me that. Along with another important lesson, always read the fine print." My phone buzzed again. Marcus's name flashed on the screen, along with a text. "What did you do?" I smiled, remembering all the times he dismissed my technical expertise, mocked my focus on details, called me soft. In business, he'd always said, "Nice girls finish last." Time to show him how wrong he was. "Should I order dinner?" Sarah asked, watching me silence my phone. "This might take a while." "Actually," I said, pulling out my laptop, "I need to finish something first." I opened my email and began typing. "Dear Walker Technologies Board of Directors, in light of recent events, I believe it's time to discuss some irregularities in the company's patent portfolio." The morning after my email to the board, I sat in my new office overlooking the city, watching chaos unfold at Walker Technologies through a very different lens. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since 6 a.m. when the first international markets opened. News of my departure and the patent situation had spread faster than even I'd anticipated. Walker Technologies stock was already down 15% in pre-market trading. Miss Stone, my new assistant Emma, appeared at the door. You have 3 urgent calls: Meridian Global's CEO, the Wall Street Journal, and your stepmother. I smiled. Caroline finally decided to join the party. The last 12 hours had been exactly what I'd planned for, but better. After my email to the board detailing the patent irregularities, Marcus had made every wrong move possible. First, he tried to lock me out of the company's systems, only to discover I'd already secured everything I needed. Then he threatened legal action, until Sarah's detailed documentation package arrived at his office at midnight. Put Meridian through first, I told Emma. And can you pull up the latest stock updates? As my largest screen displayed the market data, Robert Chen, Meridian's CEO, came on the line. Julia, quite a show you're putting on, he said, amusement clear in his voice. Good morning, Robert. I trust you received the transition documents, along with proof that you, not Walker Technologies, own the security protocols protecting our global operations? Yes, very enlightening. Marcus called me at 3 a.m., practically hysterical. I could imagine. Marcus had never understood that client relationships were built on trust and competence, not golf games and expensive dinners. Our new contract terms are acceptable? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Better than acceptable. Your direct ownership of the patents actually gives us more security. The board approved the transfer this morning, $50 million as agreed, with the option to expand to $75 next quarter. After finishing with Robert, I pulled up my email. 800 unread messages, most from industry contacts and Walker Technologies clients. The subject lines told their own story. Urgent, security contract review required, meeting request, patent discussion, Walker Technologies concerns, immediate response needed. But it was the email from James Morrison that caught my attention. Julia, emergency board meeting called for 9 a.m. Marcus is unraveling. Caroline trying to take control, but the patent evidence is damning. You should see this. Attached was a video clip from Walker Technologies' security cameras. Marcus in the executive suite at 4 a.m., throwing things, screaming at lawyers on speakerphone. Caroline trying to calm him while frantically texting her financial advisors. I forwarded the clip to Sarah with a quick note. Exhibit A for the hostile work environment claim. Her response was immediate, already added to the file. Beto, 3 more Walker Tech developers just sent their resumes. Senior team following their leader. I'd known this would happen. The developers had been my people from the start, drawn to my technical background and collaborative leadership style. Marcus had never bothered to learn their names, let alone understand their value. At 10 a.m., Emma appeared again. Miss Stone. The Wall Street Journal piece just went live. The headline said it all. Tech Care's power play backfires. Walker Technologies loses patents, clients, and trust. The article was devastating in its precision, detailing how Marcus had attempted to force out the company's chief innovation officer, me, without understanding that I personally held the patents to our core technology. It included quotes from industry analysts questioning Walker Technologies' future without its security protocols and testimonials from clients already announcing their transition to Stone Security Solutions. My phone buzzed. Caroline again. This time I answered. Hello, Caroline. Julia, this has gone too far. My stepmother's usually perfectly controlled voice shook slightly. Your father would be ashamed. Really? Dad would be ashamed that I protected my innovations, that I built my own success instead of letting Marcus steal it. He's your brother. Stepbrother, I corrected, who just tried to destroy my career. How is he enjoying his morning? Caroline's tone turned wheedling. We can fix this. Come back. Equal partnership with Marcus. Full board seat. Whatever you want. I already have what I want. I looked around my new office at the teams already working in the open space beyond. My own company, my own terms. No more playing nice while Marcus takes credit for my work. The company will fight this. With what evidence? Every patent application has my name on it. Every major client has personal service clauses. Even the development team's non-competes were with me personally. Another detail Marcus didn't bother reading. Silence. Face it, Caroline. You raised Marcus to believe he deserved everything without earning it. Dad raised me to build things that last. After hanging up, I walked through Stone Security Solutions' new headquarters. 48 hours ago, these floors had been empty. Now, thanks to 2 years of careful planning, they hummed with activity. Developers who'd followed me from Walker Technologies sat at gleaming workstations, already improving our security protocols. Sales teams who'd jumped ship were calling clients, smoothing transitions. In the conference room, Sarah led an orientation session for new hires. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Walker Technologies stock had fallen 30%. The board had called another emergency meeting. I returned to my office and opened a secure file on my laptop. Inside was a detailed plan for the next phase, including an analysis of Walker Technologies' vulnerabilities without my patents and a strategy for acquiring their struggling subsidiaries at discount prices. Marcus had wanted to teach me about real business. Lesson learned. Emma appeared one last time. Miss Stone, the Forbes reporter is here for your interview. And Marcus is in the lobby. I smiled, straightening my father's paperweight on my desk. Tell Forbes I'll be right there. And Marcus, let him wait. He's about to learn another lesson about reading the fine print. Opening my drawer, I pulled out one final document, a buyout offer for Walker Technologies already approved by key shareholders. Marcus's unanimous board was about to get very uncomfortable. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building something so much better that they destroy themselves trying to compete. Dad would have understood that. As I headed to the interview, my phone lit up with a text from Sarah. Board meeting leaked. Marcus just got suspended. Caroline taking leave of absence. Still want to send the offer. I thought about Marcus's smirk as he'd thrown my belongings in a box. About Caroline's years of subtle undermining. About all the times they dismissed my technical approach to business. Send it, I replied. Time for them to learn how real business works. The story spread through industry circles like wildfire. How the quiet stepsister had outmaneuvered the arrogant heir. How technical expertise had trumped traditional business politics. How the nice girl who'd been told to learn real business had ended up owning it all. These days, when I visit clients or speak at conferences, I often catch whispers. That's Julia Stone, the one who. They never finish the sentence. They don't have to. Success tells its own story. Last week, I received an invitation to give the commencement speech at Marcus' old business school. The topic? Innovation, leadership, and the importance of reading the fine print. I accepted with a smile, already planning my speech. After all, I have quite a lesson to share. The company continues to grow beyond even my expectations. But more importantly, we're building something meaningful, a place where technical brilliance is celebrated, where innovation matters more than politics, where the next generation of leaders can thrive without playing old-school power games. Sometimes at night, standing in my office overlooking the city, I touch Dad's paperweight and remember his words. Success leaves clues. Marcus never understood that the clues were there all along, hidden in the code he wouldn't read, in the details he dismissed, in the quiet determination he mistook for weakness. His last email sits unopened in my inbox. You planned this all along, didn't you? Yes, dear stepbrother. Yes, I did. And that's the greatest lesson of all. Sometimes the best business strategy is simply being underestimated by the right people.